So here we go. Greetings, imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your Duke of Dope Discourse, Robert Meyer Burnett. I invite you to watch and listen to the Designing Hollywood podcast, brought to you by Martika Ibarra and the great, legendary Hollywood costume designer, Marilyn Vance. I am afforded the wonderful opportunity of co-hosting the show. If you are interested in the magic of Hollywood, the design of Hollywood, the clothes of Hollywood, watch the Designing Hollywood podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts from, or find the video version on YouTube. That's right, the Designing Hollywood podcast. Why would you ever want to miss it? Especially if you love the movies.
Tango Shalom is now available
on all VOD major platforms. I think we messed that up.
Video on demand, or as they say in the trade, VOD.
VOD. Tango Shalom is now available on all VOD platforms,
which means
video on demand.
Look how you know. You must be a high school graduate.
I'm a college graduate.
Really?
Yes.
I got an honorary degree from Hofstra. Did you get an honorary degree?
No, I got a degree.
Oh, well, I got honorary. You know, I'm in the Jewish Museum.
What for?
What do you mean? As a famous Jew in the Bronx. I'm in the famous...
I'm in the Prospect Park in the Stones.
How big is the stone?
Robservations with Robert Meyer Burnett.
Well, good evening, imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your Duke of Dope Discourse, your master of fun and wonder, your viceroy of verisimilitude, your pharaoh of physical media, your sommelier of science fiction and fantasy, or whatever you want to call me, and, of course, your existential Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Can I speak any faster? Don't think so. This is Midnight Musings, episode 4, and it's not a show without my cohorts and co-hosts. We have one right now. The other one is at a party, so don't blame him. We have, how are you?
I am very well, Robert. It's great to be with you here tonight.
You know, I figured I was looking for a topic. We always want to find some philosophical topic or something to talk about that I'm like, fuck it, man. You know what? Why talk about what's going on in the world? There's nothing we can do about it. Although, Zelensky, you go, brother. I mean, the hero of the day. But who's not deliriously excited for Matt Reeves, the Batman? Are you deliriously excited?
I am so deliriously excited. Robert, I haven't been this excited since I went to go see Spider-Man last year. It's that intense. The level of excitement is at that level. And it's wonderful to have that excitement back.
You know, it's very interesting because, like, you sent me the Cat and the Bat trailer, and that trailer's epic. I think I pinned it at the top of the chat tonight. It's an epic trailer. And what's really interesting to me is we were talking on the John Campea show the other day about the spectrum of Batman movies. And on one end of the spectrum, at the very far end, you've got Batman and Robin, Joel Schumacher's Batman and Robin. Then you have Joel Schumacher's Batman Forever. Batman Forever. And then you have the two Tim Burton Batman movies. You've got Batman Returns and The Batman. So there's that spectrum. And then those all had very much an unreal sort of fantasy comic book bent, even the gothic nature of Tim Burton's Batman. Then you have Zack Snyder's trilogy of Justice League trilogy. Superman to Batman's not in that, but you have Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice and you have Zack Snyder's Justice League, I really like Ben Affleck as Batman in those movies, and I especially, one of my favorite Batman things ever on film is Ben Affleck at the beginning of Batman v Superman as Bruce Wayne arriving in Metropolis while Zod and Superman are fighting. I mean, that sequence it's amazing to see what we saw at the end of Man of Steel. You know, you didn't realize Bruce Wayne was in Man of Steel. We just didn't see him because we weren't on the ground. So you've got the two Batman movies. Then you have Christopher Nolan's Batman movies, the Batman trilogy, where we went from complete unreal fantasy ridiculousness of Batman and Robin all the way into what Christopher Nolan was doing, which still has an element of fantasy in it. Pretty grounded in reality, but even by the time you get to Dark Knight Rises, they're shooting on the streets of Philadelphia in addition to, or it's Pittsburgh. You went from Chicago, and the city that it takes place in is real. But then we get in all the way to the other side of the spectrum, which is Matt Reeves. And having not seen it, I'm assuming this, but listening to him, I've watched a lot of interviews. We get to the noir, like dark 40s noir Batman, which really is it goes back all the way to the beginnings of Batman in the comics, where all of the fantasy trappings that we remember are kind of stripped away in favor of a David Fincher-esque, whether it's Seven meets Zodiac or something like that, which I am so there for. And I was watching Matt Reeves speak today about how Warner Brothers was totally there for him and appreciated his vision. But what I thought was the most interesting thing was the first time he test screened the movie, and we'd read about this, that there was an almost 4-hour version. He wasn't ready to test screen the movie, but he said he did it anyway. And the thing that came out of that test screening that was the most impressive for him, or the most exciting, was that people loved the realistic portrayal of the Batman, the sort of Dark Knight detective element. And if you've read the books, I mean, the Batcave is in an abandoned train station that the Wayne family owns. And the Batmobile is something that he built himself because he builds cars. And I love all that, because you don't wonder, like, well, who made all of Batman's equipment? Well, he did. And they did that with Christian Bale in the, in the movies, in the Nolan trilogy. But even then, they sent out to China to have things manufactured in bulk. So my question to you is, where is your level of anticipation for this movie, and what do you think we're getting with it, and why are you so excited?
Well, there's so much to talk about when it comes to this film. And, while other things have been in the news, I can't stop thinking in anticipation for this film for so many reasons. And for months and months and months, honestly, it's been a year, maybe 2 years that we've been talking about this film coming up once the cast was picked and, everything that had happened. And yet the level of excitement did not go down. People were still excited, even despite the delays, even despite, the crazy news that seemed to come out sometimes about this film, the actors, maybe testiness or feistiness or whatever you want to call it. There was quite a lot of spectacle surrounding this version. And I think a lot of that feistiness and craziness has disappeared into something that is more of somewhat deep, dark, like you said, noir interpretation of what we're hoping for, in the Batman. This is going to be something that I think Pattinson is going to bring home, and he's going to deliver one of the darkest, most intense Batman we've ever seen. And I want to see his acting chops come out in this in a way that only he can depict. He can do dark, he can do mysterious, he can do, despair. I mean, he's going to give us a lot of those things, but he's also going to kick ass like crazy in this film. He's going to be beating up people like crazy. And it's going to be the most incredible moves. We even saw small sequences of it, but we're going to see some amazing things. We already know that the film is filled with practical effects. So, there's not that CGI issue, and all the worries about, that looked so fake. And that's not going to be an issue here. The lighting is beautiful. It's very dark. It's very gloomy. And while it does have a sense of Burton-esque, I think it's more like a noir-esque. We already know that it's been like the director was influenced by, what is it, The Long Halloween? Like you said, the origins of the comic from the very beginning. I mean, this is so exciting to see something like this. I think we're in for an incredible treat. I think that it's going to be something that's going to take our breaths away. And, honestly, it is dark. We know it's dark, but how dark can it get? I think it can get incredibly dark and incredibly disturbing. And I'm hoping for that. I'm hoping for a betrayal. I'm hoping for a salacious sex scene between obviously the two stars in there. I want to see, we're not going to see nudity, but I would love to see a silhouette of nudity or something just incredible. And even the trailer looked very sexy when he's kind of like moving her around. And I'm like, wow, he looks sexy. Even in the bat suit, he looks sexy and she looks sexy. I'm like, I'm getting hot here. Like this was not a reaction that I was expecting to have from a trailer, honestly, Robert. It grabbed my attention so much. And this is like, we haven't even begun to scratch the surface about this film that's going to be unbelievable.
Yeah, I really think that, we're moving into the Marvel Cinematic Universe is still chugging along. And I think we're all very excited about Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. And I'm deliriously excited for Moon Knight. And one of the things I want to ask you, I've still been hearing a lot of pushback from the fan community. Normally I feel like I can talk to anybody, in our fan circles about anything. And I sometimes temper my opinions when I disagree with people, unless it's about Star Trek. And I've heard a lot of this pushback about Robert Pattinson. Like everybody brings up Twilight. And whenever somebody does that, I'm like, it really, I feel that is such an unfair thing to say. Because first of all, the last time he was in a Twilight movie was a decade ago. And I look at movies that he did since then. He worked with David Cronenberg, one of my favorite directors, twice in Cosmopolis and Map to the Stars. He was in The Rover, which is an incredible movie. He was in The Lost City of Z, which I really liked. He was incredible in Good Time.
He was in Remember Me, a movie that was actually a romance, but then a tragedy, which was really impactful.
Yeah, and absolutely. And The King and The Lighthouse that Robert Eggers did, and him and Willem Dafoe are incredible. And he was in Devil All the Time with Tom Holland, which is a movie I thought was really good. So he has completely acquitted himself as a tremendous actor. He was really great in Tenet. He was one of the best things in Christopher Nolan's Tenet. I loved his character. And, I mean, it's so funny to me that he's proven himself. It's almost as if when people say, well, like we make fun of it on the John Campea show, we're always going like, Twilight boy. When people say that, I'm like, that is so... I almost lose respect for their point of view because I'm like, give me a break. Have you not seen... Like the Safdie brothers' Good Time, he was incredible in Good Time. And I can't... It's frustrating for me to see that kind of pushback from fandom because that kind of pushback is what gives us sort of a bad name lately, because there is a lot of great criticism to level at a lot of the corporate owned and corporate controlled IP that they've literally co-opted and corrupted, in my mind. But going after Robert Pattinson for Twilight, because I find that so he broke through in Twilight and he was a teen heartthrob because that series of books was directed at young girls anyway, which is there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, if you look at it, he was the most beautiful boy in the world that didn't want to fuck you.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, but he didn't want to fuck you. So teen girls are like, he's safe. I can crush out on him and he's not going to want to tear off my panties and make me do things I don't want to do. And, I thought who doesn't love vampires and werewolves? I mean, it was like this, well, I'm not going to watch it because the romantic slant to it. Like, really?
He's wonderful.
And then eventually it resulted in having a demon baby, which I was there for, a hybrid, not really a demon baby, but a hybrid baby. So, I'm like, hey, isn't that great? So I and everyone, the actors, this cast they put together for this movie is it's fucking stellar. So
yeah,
I'm really there. So let me ask you, you were just saying that Robert Pattinson, I mean, obviously, you already were in love. All chicks dig Robert Pattinson, and I think
I
that's
love him. I love
yeah.
him.
I mean, that's fine, and I don't understand. Like, are we dudes supposed to reject Robert Pattinson because he was getting busy with Kristen Stewart as a vampire? Like, who wouldn't want to have done that? Of course, before she started playing for the same team, she doesn't play for our team anymore, which is fine, good for her. But at the time, Kristen Stewart was a big deal too. I liked her.
Yeah, I mean, they had chemistry on the screen. Anybody would have chemistry with Robert Patterson. He was just absolutely beautiful in Twilight. I can see why they picked him for that. You know, he also was in Harry Potter before that, but he just is a remarkable actor. And, you know, as far as I'm concerned, you know, he's not ever going to be able to live down Twilight, but it almost doesn't matter because there are going to be women like me who remember him from that. And we're always going to return to watch his next movie. So it's almost like he has all these women, like the female gaze. We're riding him hard. Like, we're looking at this guy. I want to see what he can deliver. And I want to see him kind of like have a lot of intimacy with Kravitz on the screen. I want to like feel the rush of that because, you know, he's a passionate, you know, actor. He has the ability to do this, to really command this. And I just can't wait to see that side of him come out because, you know, it's in there.
Oh, yeah.
Also, as far as I'm concerned, you know, there was a lot of concerns about his physique going into this. And I remember when Michael Keaton, I don't even know if I remember all the details when Michael Keaton played the Batman, but he wasn't overly, you know, his physique wasn't over the top and he was wonderful. So, you know, I think while it's true that everybody has a different perception of what the Batman is supposed to be like, you know, this is a new experience for us now. And let's just enjoy him. You know, perhaps he has other attributes other than
but he
big
looks,
muscles.
I mean, he's got that one topless. He's clearly in great shape, you know,
Yes.
and this is Batman. Like, look, I love Ben Affleck as Batman. I mean, he was a beast. He looked
Yes.
like a beast, you know, and he looked like, I mean, the warehouse fight in Batman v Superman. I mean, he's just wrecking dudes. That up to now, that is bar none my favorite Batman fight ever because he's using, what I loved about it was he was using a combination of his gadgets. Like, there's when he's shooting those he's got them on the wire, whatever that bat grappling hook is. But it was cool to see both his strength combined with his tools, where he could impale somebody in the shoulder and then use the thing, and probably it would pull back, but he had the same time. So it was a combination, and he would just throw dudes down on the ground and just wreck shop. And I you know, it's so funny to me when people complain about, well, Batman doesn't kill. I'm like, come on, of course he does. Like, this idea that Batman doesn't kill is ridiculous. This is not real world Batman, and the closer they get to real world Batman, he has to kill. I'm sorry, I'm not going to kill you. These guys are trying to kill him. I love when somebody's going to throw a grenade at him and the Batman smashes and two guys are in the room and the grenade goes off. I mean, that to me, when I was a kid, that warehouse fight in Batman v Superman, that was the Batman that I always thought was Batman. You know, and Christian Bale had some good fights too, but Ben Affleck could move, and it looks like the Robert Pattinson iteration of Batman is the best mover of all because and it is Batman year 2. And if he's making his suit, he's not going to, you know, he made it. He made his suit. Now, Action Figure World chimes in, sends in a very nice super chat and says,
Nice.
Screw this Batman film. Jeff Johns for getting on Ben Affleck's nerves and making him leave. Now, I have to say this. I think one of the great tragedies of our life is that we're not going to get the Batman versus Deathstroke, the Terminator movie that Batman was working on. I mean, that Ben Affleck was working on. Because I fucking love, like, I love Deathstroke.
Yeah.
I mean, I love Slade Wilson all the way back to, you know, the new Teen Titans from the early 80s that Marv Wolfman and, God bless him, George Perez drew. And I wanted to see, because I think Deathstroke is kind of the mirror image of Batman in a different way than the Joker is, but he's a rich guy. He's a fighter. He's not looking for justice, you know, and to have the two of them go mano a mano, they could have gone after each other in their outfits and out of their outfits. But
yes, definitely out of their outfits.
Of course, I know you love the filthy, but I really wanted to see that, and especially coming after the heels of Argo, I think Ben Affleck would have done the same kind of thing that Matt Reeves is doing, which is setting in. But let me finish. So this super chat says, making him leave. We just had Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman on screen together, and now we get this cheap Nolan ripoff. Well, I would say this. I don't think this is going to be a Nolan ripoff at all. I think this is leaning into Matt Reeves. Look, Matt Reeves made 2 great Planet of the Apes movies.
And they're thinker films. They're
Yes.
not there's going to be some sort of twist to this. Like you said, it was noir inspired. It's going to have that noir feel. This is something new. It's going to be something new and fantastic that only Reeves can give us. So it's not going to be any kind of ripoff, in my opinion.
No, it's going to be, you can tell even the way the fight scenes are shot, the way they can play out. You know, I was trying to explain to somebody as a film editor, like if you look at the Michael Keaton Batman movies, he couldn't move realistically because of the suit. So
Right.
you couldn't have him. He couldn't punch fast. You know, he couldn't go hard and fast, and he certainly couldn't. I mean, when you're fighting, you don't swing out like this. You protect your face. So it's
Right.
pop, you know, he couldn't do that. And if you watch the Batman movies, it's they're throwing punches and then they cut away. You never see multiple moves. Like if you look at Shang-Chi, what I loved about Shang-Chi is finally we're back to seeing multiple swings, punches, feints, whatever, in the same frame. And
Right.
if you look at already the way they shot the Pattinson, when he's fighting Catwoman, he's just watching. She's a great fighter, and he's just toying with her. He's like, "Okay, little
His
girl, show me
legs
what you got."
everywhere.
Yeah, and he's just stepping around her, and then when he takes her and gets her down on the table,
That's right.
yeah, which was totally erotic. You know, you're looking at this erotic, and you're looking at this hot little girl who can fight, who has a great little body, and he just grabs her and puts her on that table and leans over her. I mean, clearly the sparks are flying. But what I loved about that Batman, his Batman, is that, yeah, I'm not getting fucked with. Like
That's right.
his at least in the trailers, he's like, there is nobody like Batman in the city. And so it makes sense that he can outthink anyone with his kind of training. And so when he's looking at Catwoman, who's clearly agile and knows how to fight, he's still sidestepping her because
Right.
he's way ahead of her. And that's one of the things I've never liked about Batman's portrayal on screen up to now. He's always getting in fights. Like, where did Bane learn to fight the way he fights? You know, and the thing is, unless you're the kind of combatant that Batman is, you could never go toe to toe with him. He's already anticipating your moves. He's already beaten you in a fight before one punch is thrown. And it looks
Yes.
to me like Pattinson, his Batman, is that. So I'm looking forward to getting a Batman that we have never seen before.
Certainly. And I do just want to thank Action Figure World for the $20 super chat. That is very generous.
And I would say,
I
Action
think
Figure World, get excited, man. Get excited. You're getting a new Batman. Go in. Hey, look,
Yes.
if you want to hate it, see it first. And if it sucks, then by all means, hate on it. But I would say this. I have not heard they've screened it for the press, and people keep writing into me. I have never, when people come out of the premiere and they tweet about it on social media, that's one thing, because people are on the high of coming right out of the theater. The notices that I've received from people I trust, they're all saying the same thing, that it's incredible. And that it's not just an incredible Batman movie, but that it's an incredible movie. And I
Yes.
think that's what it kind of like how the Joker transcended the genre. You know, Joaquin Phoenix's Joker, even though it was such a ripoff of Martin Scorsese's stuff. But so
Right.
what are your thoughts? I mean, you already, I get it. You are Pattinson and Zoe Kravitz. I mean, come on, I could watch them take off their suits and wow for, you know, however long they're gonna. But if we're really getting, and it's a 3-hour movie, so
Yes.
we're gonna get a sprawling. I'm thinking not Christopher Nolan. I'm thinking David Fincher meets Michael Mann, like Heath
Yes.
and Thief, and so if we're getting a David Fincher meets Michael Mann crime thriller with Batman in it, I'm like, come on, that's
Yeah.
what I'm talking about.
This is going to be something that's going to blow us away. And, you know, like I said before, I haven't been this excited since December 17th, which is when I went to see Spider-Man. This is going to have that level of just, honestly, the script on this, just even from the trailer, there's so much in it and so much detail, focusing on so many different things with multiple villains. You know, I have to almost even wonder, like, when we're talking about the mental states of of the Batman and, having to deal with all this. If it's in a noir point of view, there's going to be so many different twists and turns, more than what we're accustomed to seeing, if it is inspired by noir. So, I'm really looking forward to that. We haven't had another noir film since, I guess it was that Nightmare Alley film.
Right.
And I have a feeling, even though this is not a black and white film, this film is going to have that level of expertise in it that we saw in Nightmare Alley.
I think just in the trailers, too, when you see the scenes like that, the scene where Catwoman and Batman fight, it's shot differently.
Yes.
It's shot more conventionally because they don't have to hide anything. I think they've shot a lot more of this movie on actual locations. There's not a lot of stuff that was done with green screen backgrounds. Like Zack Snyder's movies are all shot with, they're in stages and a lot of green screen. I mean, he does go into locations, but I really liked both in Batman v Superman and his Zack Snyder's Justice League. There's that painterly graphic novel Alex Ross, but muted color palette. It looks like beautiful paintings almost, and I love that. I think he chose that style and went after it, and it was more realistic in Man of Steel. And I'm a huge Man of Steel fan. I mean, a lot of people aren't, but I love Man of Steel as a science fiction first contact story. But this movie, the rain-soaked streets. I mean, they went out to all of these locations, and they're there, and you can see that outdoors there's real light outside. They're not in a soundstage, and they're in these big cavernous locations with lots of extras, and the way the lighting works, it looks like the British directors that came from the 80s, like Adrian Lyne, Ridley Scott, and Tony Scott, where they were using like single lights to illuminate sets. So there's a lot of reality in this Batman. At least it looks that way to me.
Yeah, and I think they almost had to go the reality route, because if they tried to go too experimental on this, I think that it would have had a different tone. Like I had said before, it does have that sense of like, I can't remember the guy, the one who, oh Jesus, what is his name? The Burton. It had like a Burton-esque feel at first, but then when you look at it, how practical everything is, and as you said, the different camera angles, but also the realism in the shots, it doesn't feel Burton-esque, because Burton would try to make it, almost comical, or, strange camera angles and different sorts of, illusions in it. This one doesn't really seem to have any illusions, Robert.
No,
it's raw. Maybe this one is raw. It's the raw version. Everything from the way he fights to even the Batmobile, which obviously looks, homemade, like he worked on that with love. He made it.
Yeah, he built it himself.
It's a different expression of Batman, and it's refreshing to see a different expression.
Absolutely.
It's refreshing to see him kind of cut loose and maybe saying, you know what, it's going to be all about my influence and how I'm interpreting how we fight back on this, versus having somebody else perhaps push him to make decisions another way. So I'm kind of curious about his relationship, of course, with Zoe Kravitz in the story. I don't want to sound mean, but, I like betrayals. So, I don't want to sound mean, but, I kind of need to see something like that in this. Well, if it is noir, Robert, noir.
She's absolutely going to betray him.
Okay.
I think that, I do not think, they'll have a romance or something, but they'll probably, there's a femme fatale in film noir, and she's the femme fatale.
Yes.
And I think people have talked about there might be a connection between Riddler and Batman. I mean, that clip they released of Paul Dano, just when you'd seen when the cops go into the diner when he's sitting there, but the longer take when he turns and you just see his face and he looks totally normal, but he's just looking straight ahead normal. It becomes so creepy and weird. Like, that's some terrifying shit. And I can't wait. Our friend RRTNZ said,
Hey.
Hail, Bob, Lael, and in keeping with recent events, what are your favorite fictional apocalypse stories? Film, TV, comics, or whatever. Cheers, team. Well, that's a good question.
Yeah, that is a good question.
I mean,
I liked Don't Look Up recently.
Yeah, that was people like that. That's a good one.
Yeah, I liked that one a lot. I thought it was fun, especially the ending. So that was, and I also like, is it called The Day After Tomorrow?
The
with
Roland Emmerich movie,
yeah, the
the
one with
global warming with Jake.
yes.
Yeah, that's yeah.
I like
That's a
that
good.
one as well.
I to speak along lines for Don't Look Up. I really love Stanley Kubrick's Doctor Strangelove. You know,
Oh
which
yes, or
which
how I learned to love the bomb.
I
Yes,
learned to stop worrying and love the bomb. Yes.
I just
Um.
watched that the other day on TCM. So
Oh
yeah,
yeah. No. And I have to say, there's so many great. I mean, there's post-apocalyptic movies, but you're asking about apocalypse stories, meaning the apocalypse, not post-apocalypse. So,
right.
you know, I would say that Doctor Strangelove literally ends with nuclear apocalypse. Um, you know, I've always thought of it as an apocalypse story, but one of my favorite horror movies, the original George Romero's Dawn of the Dead,
Yes,
because at the end of Dawn of the Dead, the insinuation is that humanity's finished. You know,
yes.
this was before Day of the Dead, of course, but
But
so.
if you like Doctor Strangelove, can you also say that you like Failsafe because it's a parody
uh,
on Failsafe, right?
Yeah, well, it's actually a parody. Yeah, Failsafe was done. There's a book called, I think it's Red Alert, but yeah, Failsafe was based on a book called Failsafe. But Kubrick was like, it was like competing projects. But he figured that once he looked into the actual dangers of nuclear apocalypse, he's like, the only way to do this is make it a black comedy, make
Yeah,
it satire because it's so absurd. I mean, the whole thing is so absurd, so we have to do that.
absolutely.
Um,
And
uh,
thank you for the super chat, RRNTZ.
And he goes on to say, complain about our Pats, 3 words, Heath Ledger Joker. I mean, that's the funny thing. There's always an outcry. There was an outcry when Michael Keaton was cast as Batman. There was a huge outcry when Heath Ledger was cast as Joker. People were like, what?
Yes,
And of
yes.
course, and again, he did something very different from what we were expecting, and it was incredible. I mean, an
Hmm.
agent of chaos. He was like the real Loki. He wasn't a god from Asgard. He was a maker of mischief, and he just wanted to see, some men just want to watch the world burn. I mean, how great was that? I loved it. Kaz Graphics, once again, I have my
Hi.
glass back because of Kaz Graphics.
Hmm.
Man, I feel so much. I've felt nervous and twitchy without this glass. Now I have another one. So thank you, Kaz. By the way, I did have some mac and cheese tonight for dinner.
Ooh.
Beecher's handmade cheese.
I
Um,
think Tom Jr. Jackson had macaroni and cheese tonight as well.
so good. Kaz says, hello, Rob. I just watched Studio 666. That is the
Mm,
Dave Grohl and the Foo Fighters movie. They go to record an album
yes.
in a haunted house, what a great idea. And I saw the trailer for it. I haven't seen it. He says it was so much fun. It's ridiculous, but a great watch. Have you seen it? I have not, but I can't wait to see it. I just love that they made that movie. I mean, Dave Grohl's on a roll. He was doing the commercial where he's like making eggs, and
Yeah.
he's shouting. There's all these celebrities that like live in this house together. The trailer for, if you guys haven't seen Studio 666 or the trailer for it, I just want to see this movie succeed because it's hilarious. And Dave Grohl, it's crazy. It's like Kiss meets the Phantom of the Park, but better. Ron C sends in a super chat and says, Rob, I'm excited to see Batman Wednesday night at the AMC Metreon 16 in San Francisco. $25 for each ticket. I have been to the Metreon. I've seen movies in there because they used to have WonderCon in San Francisco before they brought it down here. I loved going up there for it. Damn. Plus, I got to do what a man has to do. Bring a hot chick as well. It's a date
Ooh.
movie. It is absolutely a date movie. Ron C.,
Wow.
I like the way you think. I like the way
Hmm.
you think. Tom Jr. Jackson says, over under, we see the Waynes killed again. I don't think we're gonna. I don't think that, why waste screen, like, they killed the Waynes in Tim Burton's Batman. They killed the Waynes in obviously Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. They killed the Waynes in Batman Begins. I mean, how many times do we have to see the Waynes get killed? I mean, you know what? You didn't need to see James Bond's first mission. I mean, we did in Casino Royale, or as a 00, but we never saw James Bond as a commander in the British Navy. So I think we get it. Like, we already know. Do you have to see them? I mean, we saw them killed again recently. I don't think we will.
No one wants to see origin stories or anything like that, so I don't think that they will show it.
Especially when you're introducing a new character like an Iron Man or Captain America. I can understand. We got to establish who they are and where they came from, or why Tony Stark became. We saw that. But I don't think that we need to see that again, because we get it. We get
Absolutely.
it. But maybe they'll allude to it or something. I don't know. Action Figure World comes back and said, Rob, I love you, but this Batman movie has the stink of Jeff Johns ruining Batfleck's movie with Deathstroke. I just can't get behind this movie, knowing all the drama behind the scenes. Yeah, but really, none of that stuff matters, because I would say that Matt Reeves wasn't involved with this project till long after that happened. And, if you liked Matt Reeves and you liked his version of Let Me In, and you liked Dawn of the Planet of the Apes and War for the Planet of the Apes, I mean, he's a filmmaker that definitely demands our respect. And remember, one movie usually doesn't have anything to do with another. So whatever drama occurred during the development of this Batman movie, and maybe Ben Affleck leaving, I think that had more to do. I wouldn't even blame Jeff Johns. I would blame the studio regime. The people that were running Warner Brothers, Kevin Tsujihara, and that, they were a clown car. What they did to Suicide Squad, what they did to Justice League, what they did to the running time of Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice. They were people that didn't have the strength of their convictions. They didn't believe in their filmmakers. They were making really stupid decisions. And they were the reason that Batman movie fell apart. It wasn't, I mean, Jeff Johns, I really respect Jeff Johns as a comic book writer, but he did something to me personally once that I do not forgive, that he didn't have to do. And something I certainly had proven, I'll just flat out say it. So I was going into Diane Nelson, who was running DC Entertainment at the time. She was the head of Warner Premiere and greenlit a movie that I produced that Dave Parker, who's going to be on Midnight Metal later tonight, that Dave Parker directed. We developed this project, and she greenlit it. So I had produced a movie for her. The Sandman's my favorite comic book of all time. So I was going in to pitch Diane Nelson. I talked to Neil Gaiman. He was down. And what I wanted to do was I wanted to make a documentary on the 25th anniversary of the Sandman and how the Sandman had influenced pop culture. I even was drawing a line between Hot Topic and the creation of characters like Death, and how a lot of women were brought into the comic space because of the Sandman and that character. Now, I did not know if they were going to allow me to do this. So this was an initial meeting where I was making my pitch to get the green light that it was okay to give them my pitch. I explained what I wanted to do. I had Neil Gaiman on board, and what I wanted to do was I wanted to intersperse the culture and the culture that had surrounded Sandman and Vertigo Comics and where comics had gone in the last 25 years, and at the same time juxtapose that with the creation of the 25th anniversary Sandman storyline overture. And she decided to bring Jeff Johns into the room. And I'm sitting there pitching this, and keep in mind, I'd worked on Lord of the Rings, the documentaries I'd done, Lord of the Rings, X-Men, X2, Chronicles of Narnia, Superman Returns. I was in the middle of doing the Star Trek The Next Generation documentaries, so I was no slouch in this department.
Right.
And Jeff Johns said, I feel this is underdeveloped, and killed it in the room. And I'm like, I had Neil Gaiman on board. Like it was, I thought this would be a formality that I would be like, yes, Rob, if you're doing it, go right ahead. Because I'd worked a lot for Diane Nelson on Superman Returns doing this. And I got the impression from Jeff Johns that it was out of spite or something. I'm like, bro, what difference does it make to you? What do you care? But he just didn't want me to do it. And I was like, I'd actually met him once before. We'd gone to a dinner, and I thought he was really cool because he was writing. It was right before he started writing Teen Titans, and I was just, why did you do that? To this day, I'm like, there was no 25th anniversary documentary about the making of Sandman. I was going to spend my own money on it, and I was hoping maybe I could get some money from Warner Brothers, and I had Neil Gaiman on board already, and that fucker killed it. So
I'm sorry, Robert.
No, it's fine. It happens. I mean, it happens all the time. But I just, it was inexplicable to me, especially with my documentary, the stuff I'd worked on. I mean, my award nominated for Best Documentary of the Year, my Making of Tron documentary. I mean, I had a lot of work. A lot of work that was deserving of respect, but it was like he didn't do any research into anything I'd done. He just killed it in the room. And so Jeff, if you're watching this, you shouldn't have done that, buddy. We could have had a great documentary. You could have been an executive producer of it or a producer, and it didn't happen. And it could have happened. You wouldn't have had to have done any work. But anyway, so there you go, action figure world. I'm still bitter.
I think Chris Gore is in the chat as well tonight.
Oh, by the way, if you don't watch the Film Courage channel on YouTube, you should, because it's really interesting. But they brought Chris back for an encore because he's been doing some great videos for them. He does a great 10-minute video where they give him 2 quotes to read. And I don't want to ruin it. I want everyone to discover it. But he has a great discussion about how franchise IPs should be handled in Hollywood. And I recommend everyone go and check that out.
Absolutely.
So Action Figure World, I totally appreciate where you're coming from. Believe me, I feel your pain. But I would give Matt Reeves and everybody involved with the Batman, give them the benefit of the doubt. Go check the movie out because I think it's going to be really special. Whitehawk says, I'm super excited for the Batman. This may wind up being my favorite movie of the year. I may be ahead of myself, but I'm excited. Whitehawk, from everything I've heard from people, this movie is something special. So, don't you think?
Absolutely. I feel the same vibes I felt a month or 2 ago going to the theater, and I have a very good feeling about this film. I think we're going to see things that we haven't seen. He's 30 years old in this particular version, and I think we're going to see some development that we've never seen before. I know that we're going to get something that's intelligent because Matt had done the Planet of the Apes films, and those had to be done right. You couldn't kind of mess those up and screw around with the story. It wouldn't make any sense. It had a scientific basis to it, and he had to stick to that. But there also had to be sort of that humanistic dilemma about, treating how you treat, all creatures. And that was very important to him. And I think that we're going to see some of that that idea here in this film, and with the dilemma that, of course, the Batman has inside him. So I can't wait to see it. It's going to be amazing.
I think so too, and the fact that it's as long as it is. I mean, I have to say, I love the fact that The Godfather is in theaters for a week. This week, you can go see it in AMC theaters. Yes. And when it ends its run on Thursday, it's the 50th anniversary of The Godfather. It's in theaters, and you can go see one of the great movies of all time. That is a sprawling familial epic that deals with crime, and then the Batman starts. So yes. I think it's so cool that in theaters now is The Godfather, and then you can go watch the Batman.
Exactly.
So I think the Batman is playing at the AMC. We're seeing at the AMC Burbank 16 in their Dolby Theater. I'm going to go see The Godfather. All the good seats for the weekend were taken, but I think I might go Monday night and go see The Godfather on the big screen because I want to see the new restoration because it's one of my favorite movies, if not my favorite movie of all time. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's going to be a great show.
Speaking of that, Bloodsport1 sends in the super chat and said, Rob, yesterday I've seen the 50th anniversary of The Godfather in the theater. It was awesome. The theater was crowded. This type of filmmaking is gone. I would agree with you. The Godfather is truly an auteurist vision. I mean, you had Coppola writing the script with Mario Puzo, but it was mostly Coppola, and, he was embattled. And he made a movie. I mean, everyone talks about The Punch where James Caan does not connect with Carlo. I know, I get it. But it's still an incredible film. And that kind of storytelling, and I don't mean to be one of those guys railing about corporate filmmaking, but studio movies are all coming down from on high. And I think it's all corporate and then the art happens down here. But I think when they hire someone like Matt Reeves and give him carte blanche, we're going to be getting, if there's such a thing, like I wanted Dark Knight Rises to be the Godfather of Batman movies. And there's a lot in Dark Knight Rises that I love, but it's also very sloppy. There's a lot of logic problems in the movie where you're going, wait a minute. So Bruce Wayne, Bane attacks the stock market. Now they turn off Bruce Wayne's power in his mansion. Like, what? You don't have diversified interests, buddy? Come on. But it was.
But also, the way the film was polished off as well. I don't think we're going to see any of those inconsistencies in this version. Everything is going to be quite deliberate and, properly finished off. Even in each scene, we're going to see pretty much like scene perfection,
I agree.
in a way that we haven't seen before. And there's going to be a lot of like, wow, did you see that? Oh my God, did you see that? You're going to be saying that over and over again, just from the trailer alone.
Oh yeah.
We've been seeing that. So there is a lot of great expectation in that. And I think Matt Reeves is really, if the trailer is as the film purports it to be, it's something that he could be very proud about. And just making everybody so excited for it. So I'm just pleased as punch with what I've seen so far.
Yeah, I can't wait. Claudius, who's one half of the official, I got Chaz Graphics, the official cheesemonger of this channel, and Claudius, who's one half of the official couple of the Burnettwork is here. Claudius says, Batman Returns. Just watch the protege, because it's now on streaming and they're advertising it. Michael Keaton fighting scenes look good. They do. He acquits himself admirably in those scenes. Those scenes are really good. I would love to see Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman pair up with a Keaton Batman in a Flash or Batgirl. Note, Batman Returns is also a Christmas movie. It is. I have to tell you, I would not be at all surprised if Michelle Pfeiffer is in the Flash.
Wouldn't that be something?
I've heard nothing. I've heard nothing. There's some things I've heard things about, but I've heard nothing about this Flash movie. I know nothing. But it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. And I agree with him in regards to, Michael Keaton, he was just so remarkable in the film. And I saw him in The Protege and kind of reviewed that film. And, is he 70? He's 70, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's like close to 70, but he did not look like a 70-year-old man. And I kind of he made me look at 70-year-old men a little differently, Robert. Like I had to change my perception after seeing the chemistry, the hot chemistry that he had with Maggie Q in this was just off. It was nuts and so incredibly good. And I said, okay, now I've got to change my parameters and, in the age category here,
It sounds like you had to change your panties too. Come on.
He totally I just had to switch my whole mindset of what a 70-year-old man can do. And I've got to tell you, nobody does it better than Michael Keaton in this film.
No, he's had a complete renaissance. I mean, from The Founder to Birdman to I loved him in Dope Sick.
Yes, I loved him in Dope Sick.
He was terrific in Dope Sick. I mean, it just goes to show you we're now living in a world where, I think back on my dad. And my dad, when he was 50, he looked twice as old. Well, maybe not twice as old, but older than I think I look now. Like I told you, if I shave my beard and whatever. People nowadays, because we're just more active, we're not smoking cigarettes. We're not, people I think are more conscious and more aware of their health, but also there's no reason why people have to, I think, standing idle, you die. Especially as you get older, you got to keep moving. You got to literally keep your blood pumping. And there's no reason why people have to stop working now. Look at Clint Eastwood made his the last movie The Mule? Was that his? No, it wasn't The Mule. It was Cry Macho. 91 years old.
Yeah.
Our man Bill Shatner is less than a month away from his 91st birthday. The man went into space last year. So,
yes.
And if you think about it, a lot of people think if you're 70 and you live to be Shatner's age, you got 2 more decades to go.
Yes.
And there's I'm in no hurry to kick off the mortal coil here.
He was also in a film called Worth, or was it a documentary or something called Worth, where they had to, he was an actuary or insurance adjuster.
You mean Michael Keaton?
Yes. Yes, that's correct. I think it was him. And he was great in that as well. He really just hasn't, you're right. He is undergoing a renaissance. And I think it's great to see actors be able to kind of come back and perform like this. There was no question as to his intention towards Maggie Q in the film. So,
right.
It was a mature sexual situation. And I think that that's fantastic. And, it's, bravo to him for bringing that alive again. looking at him as a sex symbol now again, which I didn't think I was going to be looking at him like that.
Yeah, I mean, he's even got. It's so funny because his next 3 movies, he's in Morbius. We assume is the Vulture, and he's in Flash, and he's in Batgirl. So,
and he was in a few Spider-Man films as well, right, Robert?
Well, he was. Well, yeah, no, he was in. Yeah, he was in Spider-Man: No Way Home. You know, and so it's. I mean, it's incredible. That I mean, Spider-Man: Homecoming, not No Way Home.
Yes.
But yeah, you look at he like you said. Yes, you're right about Worth. He was in Worth. That came out in 2020. He was in Trial of the Chicago 7.
Yes, so he was.
He's, he's doing great now. He's a great life, great story, and everyone like loves Michael Keaton. So I think it's great, and they've got to make a Batman Beyond, either a series or a Batman Beyond movie where he plays Bruce Wayne to Terry McGinnis's, Batman Beyond. I would love to see that. I know John Campea. It's so funny because every time Batman Beyond comes up, and John always says, people are always telling me about Batman Beyond, and I'm like, dude, it's awesome. And I'm like, you just gotta watch it. Like, just watch Batman Beyond. Watch the Batman Beyond movie. It's the animated film. Batman Beyond was great. I love Batman Beyond.
Yeah, they really are giving us some quality viewing, whether it's animated or even in some cases, a live action TV series. This is really a great time, Robert, a really great time for the franchise as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, yeah. And I it's funny because I'm a huge, I'm just a huge MCU fan. And while I think that Black Widow, I really loved Eternals. I know a lot of people didn't, but and Black Widow's fine, to me, mid-level. But then you come out roaring with Spider-Man No Way Home, doing something it's so insane that we get a movie with all those actors coming back. I mean, that was crazy. Kicking off the multiverse and moving into Doctor Strange, and I mean, I can't say, but I think, like it's one thing. It's like Spider-Man No Way Home was awesome. Like, I never thought we'd ever see that. But John mentioned on the show that I wish people wouldn't do this. I honestly wish that people wouldn't send us stuff like really spoilerific. Like, I don't understand why people think that we want to know. I don't want to know spoilers. Unless it has to do with Star Trek, I don't care about anything else. But then I get them, and then you have to look. Yes. If somebody sends you something, well, I saw a thing. Let's just say,
and you're not going to say what the thing is,
no,
right?
No,
Rob?
I'm not going to say what it was. But
I
mean, it's one of these things. Like, it's like having Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield in Spider-Man. That was truly insane that they did that, and the implications that they've now made the Sony Spider-Man movies, all of them adjacent to their own multiverse. So it's all part of one continuum. Well, let's just say that I saw something along those lines that also, I can't say what it is, but I was just looking at this thing going, no way. Like, I'm like, no. And for me, as somebody who loves comic books, I mean, I'm surrounded by, I have omnibuses, and I mean, there's comics right up here. I don't even know what's up here. I put these up here. I don't even know what's here. Let's see, just because I want to know. By the way, Shuri and the Throne of Wakanda.
Yes. Robert, do you read digital comics?
No.
Okay. Oh, Moon Knight! How appropriate.
Moon Knight #1. Although I was not a fan of this series. But I do have Moon Knight. Well, hang on. Let me just see. How funny! I didn't even know this was up here.
Be careful.
Look at this. I apparently I was looking at other Moon Knights. Here's Moon Knight 8, Series 1, Moon Knight 8.
How about that?
I was looking at comics to get slabbed. Clearly.
Oh.
Here's Moon Knight. Oh, look at this. This is not Morbius. It's Moon Knight versus Morpheus, the vampire.
Fantastic.
So those are from 81.
Mm-hmm.
What is it? There's all kinds of. Oh, and then my Camelot 3000s. Yeah, that's what a random. I don't even know why these are up here. What a random collection of comic books that are right here. I don't know why. I mean,
Yeah, it's too bad that people feel the need to share those details that really shouldn't be shared. And we already know a lot from what's going to happen with these films going in, forward anyway now, more than we would have known 20 years ago even. So, to push it to that point, it's just too much. I think it's very inconsiderate of people to send spoilers out like that.
Well, what's so interesting to me is I guess I have a different take on it in the sense that they're not spoilers because they've already been filmed. They've already been written. Like it's already done. It's only that we don't know them. Right. And I just don't understand. Like, we'll find out. Like, there's all these sites now that are dealing. I get it. They're dealing in spoilers because we all want to know. But my real feeling now as I get older, I'm like, who cares? Why don't we just wait? Like, yes. there are things like, if I didn't, we all speculated that Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield were in these movies. And I understand movies are marketed and all that, but I just keep thinking, what if you didn't know?
Right.
I mean, if you didn't know about anything about Spider-Man No Way Home, I mean, they would have to tease the villains, I guess. But the question is begged, if you're going to bring back Willem Dafoe, why wouldn't you bring back Tobey Maguire? But imagine if you had no inkling that was going to happen, and Ned opens these portals. And can you imagine what it would have been like to be in a theater and not know? I mean, as a lifelong comic book fan, it would have been one of the great moments in cinematic history. I mean, it still was pretty great. I still loved it. But if you had no idea, it seems so silly now, but I was in the theater the day The Empire Strikes Back opened. Wow. I went and saw one of the first screenings. The Seattle International Film Festival was having a big charity screening of Empire. No one had seen the movie. There was no internet like there is today. The feeling in the audience when Vader says, Obi-Wan never told you what happened to your father. He told me enough. He told me you killed him. No. When he said that, literally, you could feel the temperature in the theater drop 20 degrees.
Yes.
Like the whole audience, it was almost like you talk about a chill in your bones or your blood turning to ice. That's what happened to every single person in that 1,500-seat theater or whatever. I mean, and it was packed. And it was the whole audience. It was, you could hear people turning to each other like, wait a minute. And then Luke's like, that's not true. That's impossible. It was such a weird experience because there's been times when, I mean, I remember sitting in, like, I knew nothing about The Matrix because The Matrix came out in 1999 when it took a day to download a trailer.
Yes. Yes.
And when you walking into that, everyone's like, this is going to be like Johnny Mnemonic 2. It's going to suck. I remember sitting in that theater, the blue pill, red pill scene. Yeah. And when he wakes up in the battery, I was like, my mind was blown. I was just absolutely blown away. And it's because I didn't know anything. And the movie worked because you're following the story intellectually. And when something like that happens, it's like, are you kidding me? And you can't believe it. And we're robbed of that experience. I mean, I love being a fan. I love being in this community. But I wish that fans were the exact opposite. I pretty much was able to go in spoiler-free for Infinity War and Endgame. And I love them both. I had so much fun watching those movies. To me, I mean, you can talk about what your favorite comic book movies are. Mine's still probably Superman the movie. But I get such enjoyment out of Infinity War and Endgame because as an old school comic book fan that grew up reading Avengers and Justice League comics, and my favorite thing was watching Justice League, reading the Justice League Justice Society of America crossover they would do every year in the comics, in the Justice League comics. Watching that movie, I can't believe, I felt I couldn't believe the first Avengers existed, but with Infinity War, with the added benefit of having Doctor Strange in it and Wong in it and the Sanctum Sanctorum and the Avengers and the Guardians of the Galaxy and Spider-Man, it's like I can't believe it exists. And Thanos.
I mean, for me, my favorite was Civil War and will always be Civil War because I love the thought of them fighting against one another. But they were all very good. And, for me, when it came to The Matrix, my cousin who lives in England was visiting the United States at the time. And he says, we got to go see this movie called The Matrix. And I said, okay, sure. I knew nothing about it. I went in cold. And for me, the scene that did it for me, while first of all, everything in the film was incredibly well done. It was an incredibly well made film. The scene that did it for me was the scene where that helicopter was kind of falling off the side and it looked like it was going to crash, and he wraps his arm around it. And I'm like, what is he doing? Like, I was like, you can't do that. And of course, like, he pulls it back up and I was like, wow, like that was the one that I was like so shocked. I'd never seen anything like that before. And in Inception, I had that same feeling when Leonardo DiCaprio is walking with Elliot Page. At the time she was Ellie Page, and he says all you have to do is let your mind think about building architecture in a different way, and then all of a sudden, like, part of the whole world kind of flips on itself. And I've had that same feeling, like that moment where you're like, oh my gosh, I wasn't expecting that. And we've seen that in a lot of films since that time, but that was the first time I'd ever seen anything like that. And so it is kind of nice to not know going in what you're going to see. It is great being surprised.
Yeah, and we don't. I mean, I don't understand. Like, I actually do understand it because fans. I've been going to conventions since I was a kid, and fans always want to one-up each other with their knowledge. Before it used to be you get together and somebody would say, oh, I love the Star Trek episode where blah, 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 and then to know the episode title and then to know who wrote it and all that became, you were always trying to trump each other with your who knows more about what. And that bit of fandom is carried over into this idea of movie spoilers. But I'm getting to the point where, and look, being that it's my job to comment on this stuff in a way,
yes,
I can't. John's like, the first time I get these show notes from him, and he sends show notes out. Okay, here's what we're going to talk about, and you got to make sure you've watched this, 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 and this. And I'm like, okay,
right?
It's like,
Robert, do we have any more super chats or stream elements?
Oh, we have a lot of them. This one's from Glenn Mark. Glenn Mark says, evening, guys. Hi. Good day, Rob.
Hi.
Tell me, is there a complete collection of Juggernaut the Eighth Day out there? I just checked on that. That is, of course, a Juggernaut miniseries from the 90s. It's out of print, but I don't see any graphic novel at all. I just see the 4 issues. So I don't think there is, Glenn Mark. So I don't. There isn't one out there, so I apologize from what I wrote. RRTNZ says Jeff Johns wrote some GOAT Superman stories. Look, let me be clear. I really love Jeff Johns' comic book writing, and I have spent an inordinate amount of money on his work. I have all the Justice Society of America hardcovers. I'm looking at his. There's the Dark Side War. His Teen Titans. I've really loved the Blackest Night. I have all of his Green Lantern run in hardcover. I'm a huge fan of Jeff Johns as a comic writer. I was disappointed that somebody whose work I had purchased a great deal of dismissed something I was trying to do. It wasn't like he was trying to do a documentary and shot mine down. And he would have got a great documentary out of it. And so that bums me out. But so I'm a huge fan of Jeff Johns' work. So Darth Plato said, just remembered this today and it's hilarious. The scene in Red October, I'm wearing my One Ping Only shirt. The scene in Red October when Ramius kills the political officer, the commissar, the guy's name is Putin. It's true. Later on, an officer refers to Putin as a pig. That's funny. Putin was a pig. Somebody's got to download that and make a make. That's very funny, Darth Plato. We've got to. That's funny. I'm gonna go get that and download that scene. Claudius says, Rob, don't you miss not being able to speculate on the possibilities of Doctor Strange 2? I think the week-to-week speculation about WandaVision was part of the excitement. What's even better is WandaVision clues paying off in Doctor Strange 2. Don't say it. Well, I would just say that what was really interesting to me was, and I've been saying this, that I went back and I read Avengers Disassembled. And if you haven't read Avengers Disassembled by David Finch and Brian Michael Bendis, it's an incredible Avengers story, and it tees up. A lot of it ties into WandaVision and the upcoming Doctor Strange, not with the multiverse, but absolutely it delves into what's up with Wanda and what's up with Doctor Strange, and even Agatha Harkness, and it's all right there. And Marvel is clearly following that line with Wanda, and while the multiverse is a different part of the story, I mean, the only thing I'm going to be disappointed by is if Wanda hasn't already altered reality to get rid of the mutants, which makes total sense to me. And after going back and reading Avengers Disassembled and House of M, I'm like, oh, okay. So, but that I just read Avengers Disassembled. First of all, it's a great Avengers story. It's a great Avengers story. So yeah, Claudius, I'm not gonna. I've already seen too much about. I've seen too much from Doctor Strange 2. I don't want to see anymore. I don't want to know anymore. I know too much, and I feel like, I mean, we had to look at this stuff people sent in, and I was like, really? Why'd you send it in? Claudius goes on to say, surprise, for Spider-Man No Way Home, I was in a packed theater with an excited audience. When Ned created the portal, some girls next to us lost their minds in anticipation of seeing Andrew Garfield. It was also emotional losing hot Aunt May. Surprise helps. I agree. I mean, I think that, I mean, what do you think? Am I off base? Would you like to go to a world, Arden, where we don't know anything?
Yeah, I prefer some things being kept secret. And as far as I'm concerned, I actually try to not watch as many trailers and previews as I can. Sometimes I just turn away because I don't necessarily want to see it repeated over and over and over again. I'll look at it once, make an opinion about it, and then not look at it. So by the time it actually comes out in the theater, it might be a month or two since the last time I've actually seen it. I may not remember everything in the trailer. So,
Right.
you know, I can go ahead and have that excitement again and pretty much forgotten that I've even seen it in the trailer. And that's ideal for me. But once, you know, our regular day-to-day lives, Robert, if we were going to the movie theaters every week or every other week, we'd be seeing these trailers over and over and over and over again. It's very hard to kind of, you know, ignore them. But I just close my eyes or I turn away so I can't see it. So, yes, I would prefer not to know.
I mean, also, I just love trailers. It's hard for me not to watch trailers because I've loved trailers since I was a little kid. You know, I used to make videotapes of trailers. Like there was, I want to say, it might have come out on Wizard. There was a tape called The Best of Sex and Violence. And it was hosted by John Carradine, the actor whose sons were Keith Carradine and Robert Carradine. And all it was a collection of really bad trailers from the 70s. Like Ebony, Ivory, and Jade. It was like a black woman, a white woman, and an Asian woman who were like a fighting team, like Fox Force 5, or like the Doberman Gang, and there were these just total exploitation trailers in the 70s. Tanya's Island, and John Carradine, the old John Carradine he would interject between the trailers, and I mean I lived for that stuff. If I could find trailers, I was all about trailers, so I can't not watch them. But still, nowadays, because I think what bothers me is that with the MCU, it's so interconnected. So you're not only anticipating the movie, but you're also anticipating in how it advances the overall story. And knowing what happened in WandaVision, this picks up directly after WandaVision, and after reading Avengers Disassembled, which has her children and has Agatha Harkness and has Doctor Strange, and knowing what happens afterwards with House of M and all that, you're like, oh, okay, you know. But when you know these things, but then people are sending you stuff that confirm your speculations, and I'm
Yes.
like, I don't want that. I don't want to know. Like, there was one thing that we saw that it was this other thing that we saw. I'm like, wow. I mean, the people at Marvel are really putting a lot of thought into this, and the fact that
Absolutely.
the fact that they've gone into they go into they're not exact because there is no multiverse in the Avengers Disassembled, but there's WandaVision, and I mean, you know what I should do? You know what? I actually, I'm going to show you this because I took a picture.
Oh, gosh.
I sent it to John Campia. I have to email
Uh-huh.
these, but I sent some pictures, some comic panels from Avengers Disassembled that would tell you what it is that I'm talking about. So, and I'll let's see. I will let's see this, and this. Let's see. Yeah, I'm gonna
Oh
send.
my goodness.
I'm gonna send them to myself so you can see what. Oh, oops! I'm having a hard time figuring it all out. Let's see if I can. Wait a minute, can't I? See, as I'm looking at my phone, I'm like, how do you work iPhones? I forget. I've only had it since 2007. Um,
Well,
you know,
there's something else too, is that, like, for example, in some of these trailers where they'll show you action scenes, and they might be showing you the best action scene in the film. And, I don't like that. I don't like when they show me the best scene in the film. So I just have to almost close my eyes because I don't want to know. I don't want to know that fight sequence. I want to be surprised by that fight sequence and kind of enjoy it. Now, I did enjoy seeing the sequence between, Pattinson and Batwoman. But other than that, I didn't feel like I needed to see any of those other fight scenes because I'm expecting him to go overboard. And, I don't want to kind of like have my mind set that that's what I'm going to see. No, I know it's going to be amazing. It's going to be lethal. It's going to be crazy. And I'm ready for that. So.
yeah.
But Robert, this week, or at least about a week ago, there's a bunch of people I'm sure who are here in the chat who watch and look at comics on Cosmicology,
Sure.
which is, an electronic version of looking at comics.
Which I like. I just, I'm such a tactile person. I read so much. I like having things in my hand.
Yeah, Robert, I love having things in my hands too. But when I can't do that, I have to look at it on screen. And
Yeah.
one thing that I do
I
like
know.
one thing that I do really like about being able to look at it on a screen, not on my phone, but on a computer, is that I can enlarge the panels and kind of like look at some of the detail. And see
I
some
know
really
you
cool
can.
But recently there was some kind of upgrade to Cosmicology and people couldn't access their comics. And it was like quite a kerfuffle. And you couldn't enlarge the panels anymore either, which is kind of hard. Like if you can't read, the writing is very small. It was like an issue, but hopefully they're going to fix it. But I have a ton of comics on Cosmicology that I've bought, and even getting access to some of this stuff, was kind of a pain in the neck. So, it was kind of driving me crazy, but supposedly they're going to fix it. But, I've spoken to people who live all internationally, and that's the only way they can get a comic book. They can't get a comic book from the United States because by the time it gets to them, it might be several weeks later. And then, they don't get the advantage of seeing the comics. So, but that was something that I was thinking about when you showed me those floppies that you had, your floppies. So.
Oh yeah. So yeah, I'm a huge I've got thousands of comics in here. Tens of thousands of comics. Insane. So here's a panel from Avengers Disassembled where Wanda Maximoff is confronting Agatha Harkness. And she's asking where her children are. By the way, in the comics, her children were delivered by Doctor Strange, like the normal way. So she's asking Agatha Harkness, where are my children? Agatha Harkness says, sit down, Wanda, sit down and we'll have it. And she screams, where are my children? Tell me where my children are. And so this is all part of the story. Now here's Doctor Strange, after a lot of shenanigans have gone down. Doctor Strange is asking, what the hell is going on? What do you mean? Because he doesn't know what's been going on with Wanda. And Strange is yelling at the Avengers, and there's Beast from the X-Men says, she in a way tricked herself into giving birth to them, but they really don't exist. Agatha Harkness, that woman, her mentor, Agatha, she was the one that figured out what the children really were, so she erased them. So that's Miss Marvel saying that she took care of it. And Strange says, why didn't you people come to me when this happened? And then he goes on to say, there has always been an uneasy structure to Maximoff's power. As a mutant, she was born with her magical powers, her powers over magic, her hex power, but it wasn't earned through spirituality. It was given to her without understanding the consequences of it, its consequences. Now, what's interesting about that is, as we know in the established MCU, the Quicksilver and Wanda are miracles because they didn't own Fox, and they think they got their powers through an Infinity Stone, through experimentations from Hydra. I don't think that's true. As this shows, Wanda goes completely, she loses her mind because of grief. Well, they already destroyed the Avengers in Infinity War and Endgame. So that's why Wanda has left and Vision had his, and so you don't have to deal with that part, but you're dealing with the Wanda's grief over all this, which is they're not doing it exactly, but the idea that she created her children and now she thinks her children were real, just like in this comic book. And so now what's really cool is, and again, I don't think this is, look, this is not spoiling the movie. I'm taking you into the comics going, okay, here's what I think is going on in the comics. So I'll show 2 more panels and then I won't show any more from Avengers Disassembled. Only because when I was reading this, I was like, my mind was blown because I forgot it had been a long time since I read Avengers Disassembled. So here's Doctor Strange again. Let's see if I can't. Let's see. I'll have to. I know that it's hard to read this panel. It's hard for me to read it too. So I apologize. Yeah. So here's Strange now talking to Iron Man. There's a great possibility, Iron Man, that she may not even be aware of what she's doing. Iron Man says, Doctor, I'm sorry. I have an immense amount of respect for you, but we cannot accuse a teammate of this kind of terrorism. I need more than your theory. Strange says, my theory? Listen to me. This chaos magic, the source of her new reality-altering powers. I am the master of mystic arts, and I am telling you, there is no such thing as chaos magic. And then he goes on to this panel. I'm sorry, this is a full page, so I apologize that it is you can't see it. But so in this panel, as I pull it up so I can read it, Strange says, please forget we're talking about your friend and listen to me tell you the story of an orphaned mutant with a sordid, violent past. With powers she did not earn, nor can she control. Powers she never fully understood. Can you understand the delicate mindset of this woman, a person who has control over all of reality? It means that reality controls her. Imagination becomes the enemy. Structure disappears. Reality, eventually, as she knows it, starts to slip away and elude her and blur. Drama, conflict, tragedy, they become excuses to change the world to fit the image that she has for it. Anything she doesn't like, she can change, no matter how slight. People, places, things. Everything is hers to change. But every time she does that, every time she gives in to her desires, no matter how noble they may be, a little more of her slips away. She loses herself, her reason, but she struggles, questions every day to keep it in check, to keep it all together. For a person of strong mind and body, for a person of pure spirit, the task of coping with these powers would be all-consuming. And I'm like, well, there it is. There's Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness right there, and Wanda Maximoff is the start and beginning of all of it. And it was all right there in the pages of Avengers Disassembled, and I'm reading this going, well, that's fucking rad. What's not to love about that? I mean, bring it on. And I mean, obviously the multiverse is not a part of this particular story, but Wanda's story, they've gone into Wanda's story and addressed that, I think. I think that's kind of what's going on here. So
yeah, I'm glad you give us more insight into that because, it's good to know a little bit more about what you're theorizing will happen. I mean, in the show, she gives birth and it's, I guess it's Monica Rambeau who's there when the babies are delivered. And of course, Vision, the vision that she had there. But I wouldn't be surprised if it was just we knew it was in a creation of her own, and it could all just go away so quickly. So, but I liked that she kidnapped. I'm sorry, I liked that she kidnapped an entire town to make her dreams come true.
Well, yeah, I mean, and that's what she's doing. I mean, and in Avengers Disassembled, you find out it's her that's launched these attacks against the Avengers, and she killed Scott Lang, she killed Ant-Man, and She-Hulk. There's a great moment where She-Hulk completely hulks out, and Vision has come down and dropped off Ultron robots that they have to battle. Which, I mean, you see some of that in Multiverse of Madness, the trailer, and I love. There's a scene where She-Hulk tears Vision in half. She hulks out and just tears Vision in half, and it's awesome. And then, of course, after the end of the whole storyline, Magneto comes, who's her father, and takes her away. I think Doctor Strange is going to take her away. But what if, at the end of Multiverse of Madness, what if, reality, the multiverse, we've seen various iterations of Wanda in the trailer or whatever. Could you imagine if Magneto showed up at the end of the movie when reality is put back together to get his daughter?
I would love it. Would it be Mike Fassbender who would return to reprise?
I have no idea, but after reading Disassemble, and guess what? Guess who he was at a party, but he's here now, just in time for the Multiverse of Madness speculation that we've had going on again. But we're going to now talk to Lael about the Batman. Everyone else, 1/6 scale man is joining us. Hang on. Let me get you in the show, Captain. Let me put you in, Coach. Wow, did you get a haircut, man? You look slick. Okay. Yeah, hang on.
Yes,
we can hear. Hang on, let me put you in the show. Ladies and gentlemen, our other co-host, Lael Rockwell, is joining us. By the way, I played the new iteration of the Cocoa Tulip commercial, so you can tell LaToya T that she's back getting her mad props, and tell her I will extend her commercial into April because we missed about a week. So
okay.
Tell her that she will, in fact.
She's actually listening to you right now. So
here, one more time. Hey, it's only 18 seconds, Lael. Since you're here, let's play it again. Come on, man. That's LaToya T's company, Cocoa Tulip. Everybody should go to her website or go purchase some of her fashion.
Yeah.
Because look at how good she looks in it. I don't know if you could look as good as in her stuff as she does, but she looks pretty damn good. Just saying.
Yeah,
so it's good to see you, Lael. I haven't talked to you all week. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. It's been a busy week. It was a busy day today. I had we went to a reenactment. It was actually a play, a poetry play in Millersville this morning for the culture. Then I had a comedy show. A friend of mine had a comedy show tonight. It was an art show first. We had a comedy show, and then I had a birthday party for a friend of mine. It was his birthday party, and also the reveal that him and his girlfriend are having a baby. So that was exciting.
Wow.
All of it happened tonight. Everything happened tonight. It's crazy.
That is crazy. Okay. Well, now jumping into it, I got to ask you, obviously, what is your level of anticipation for the Batman?
Bro, I'm there opening night. Bro, look, I'm sorry, but Uncivilized is not going to happen this Thursday because of the Batman. You know what I mean? The Batman, I am so, bro, year 2.
And I won't be there for Say What because I'll be out on Wednesday because of the Batman.
Because of the Batman, there you go. So that's what I'm saying. I'm so excited about it, bro. I cannot wait. The reviews from what I'm hearing so far and what I've seen, everybody's extremely excited about it. It's gotten rave reviews. I'm like, yo, come on, just give it to me. I'm ready. I can't wait. The thing is, it's like what I've done is, even with like the TV spots, I've kind of stayed away from them because I'm like, I don't want to give too much away. I just want to kind of stay away as much as I can. and just go in, because the thing is, really, even with some of the actual trailers that we've seen, I still don't know much at all.
Right.
Like I'm still like really, I'm going in completely blind with it, but I'm extremely excited, especially based on what they're saying and what was it Matt Reeves, I believe.
Yeah, he did a great interview with Collider. It's with Steve Frosty at Collider. There's clips of it on YouTube. I think everybody should watch it because it'll make you even more excited.
Yeah, I'm super excited about it, bro. I cannot wait. I'm just, it's crazy because when we talk about the pandemic, we had kind of, when it came to like both DC and Marvel, movies that have actually dropped, it didn't come out with a big enough bang that we were expecting. Even though like we loved Eternals.
Yep.
Even though like Wonder Woman 1984 got lukewarm reception and people didn't really love that.
But you know what? That was a really bad movie.
Yeah, it was.
I'm going to flat out and say that the story, the magical wish story, made no sense. Now I will cop to the fact that right there, I got my golden armor Wonder Woman, and I'm not going to give that shit up. Nope, not going to do it.
Yeah.
But I thought it was a terrible film.
It was
a shame. It was a shame that film was the way it was, and it could have been incredible.
It could have been better. And it was a missed opportunity for something that was great or could have been great. I know that she's going back to do number 3. Hopefully it's better, but we'll see.
Yeah, I'm worried because she inherited Wonder Woman 1. The lot of the creative was already done. I thought she did a great job directing Wonder Woman 1, but she was really involved with the story, because the whole thing about look, it seems silly to say, but when you're talking about Amazons and characters that were created by the gods, and but be that as it may, going into man's world in World War I was a really brilliant idea, and seeing her trying to cope with man's world. I liked it better than if she came to the modern world, because there was something more poignant and more. It had a fairy tale quality to it, even though it was World War I, but also a reality and a poignancy that would have been undercut if it happened in the modern age. Yeah, and that teaming up with Steve Trevor and his men and fighting in World War I really brought down. It made her a real character in a great way that we hadn't really seen before. It was different than World War II and the Howling Commandos or whatever that you saw Captain America with. But I the whole going into 1984, it would have been really interesting if, like, I wanted to see some political thriller, like the war. There's no longer war on the European theater, but in 1984, you had the rise of capitalism and cocaine and drug cartels and Miami Vice, and you had this great fusion of pop culture and music and fashion and Patrick Nagel's cover of Rio and all this. And there was, and then you get this weird story about wish fulfillment, like everybody's making, and that having wishes is such a weird esoteric. Like how does Wonder Woman fight against? I mean, if the whole world could suddenly wish for whatever they wanted, it would take about 5 minutes before every human being was eliminated from the planet Earth. We would wish ourselves out of existence in seconds. Yeah, because all that.
And crazy. I was watching the film because it was on the other day, and I watched it, and I was like, you know what? It dawned on me. I was like, well, wait a minute. Like, all people had to do in this film, the way it was written, was based off of the interpretation of a wish. The wish was made, and what he can get from it, right? So I was just thinking, I was like, okay, so we're going through this whole chaotic, it was like a chaotic moment, in Act 3, and they were trying to basically figure out how to stop everything. And I was like, well, how come nobody actually wished that he didn't have power?
Yeah, I mean, that's a real problem.
I was like, to me, it was like, okay, especially if you're Wonder Woman, or if you're anyone else, to be like, well, or even his son, take a moment to say, Daddy, I wish you would just come home. I wish you didn't have power. I wish you was just my father. And that was it. Like, you know what I mean? It was just, I don't know. Maybe it was just me, and maybe there was like an underlying moment or an underlying message or a narrative that I was missing at that point. But yeah, they missed it. They missed the plot on it. It was boring. But we got good figures.
Yeah.
We did get good for Wonder Woman. So, I'll take that.
Also, here's one of the things that I don't understand. Like, on one hand, the studios are always telling people, you get notes from studios, you have to have your scripts, they're extensively. Yeah. So this is going to seem a little strange, but if you're making a wish that comes from your heart, and say you have the Rock of Ages or whatever the hell it was, that's going to help you make this wish.
Yeah.
Where, like, intellectually, where's the wish switchboard? Like, everyone's going to be like, okay, well, if we have this wish, we need to make sure that these 10,000 things in the world need to change. Like, okay, you've got to have a bank account, which means if you wish for $1 million in your bank account, then suddenly somewhere in the world, the banking system has to recognize that you have that $1 million because it's now in your bank account. Exactly. So making wishes and having them come true, when you think about the reality of what would have, like, if you wish yourself, let's say I wish I lived in a big mansion. Well, where is that mansion? Where's the title deed to that mansion? Have you had power hooked up already? And so the idea of using wishes as a plot device, it breaks down when you're trying to show it in the context of a movie, because the practical reality of your wish fulfillment wouldn't work. I mean, I know this is a weird thing to say, but like, if you wished yourself to be like president of the United States, there would be so many things that would have to be triggered when you were president of the United States that your wish would have a ripple effect over the rest of reality that I just don't, for me, Mr. Viceroy of Verisimilitude, I don't believe it. So the entire plot line of Wonder Woman 1984 is something that I reject intellectually from the get-go, just knowing it's about making wishes. Because I can't, in the context of a superhero movie, you have broken, even within the context, people are like, well, Rob, it's all made up anyway. I'm like, yeah, but it's one thing if you're telling a genie story and somebody gets 3 wishes. But when you're talking about the entire world suddenly being able to wish things, it's like, for me, intellectually, your story has ground to a halt. And there's all these questions. Then you're going to fight Cheetah and all this ridiculousness. And I'm like, who cares? I don't care.
It was just as much a slippery slope as time travel. Time travel, if told, because there's consequences to everything. And I think with the wishes, it was the demonstration or the attempt. It just didn't make any sense, because the thing is, they didn't really, they didn't dive into the consequence of those wishes and the ripple effects it would have as much as they should have. You know what I mean? Like, I guess we got a hint of that when, of course, the wish was made that she was just as strong as Diana, but also because of the greed, it changed her mentality and it made her a bit more, I guess, menacing, or it tapped into that selfishness within inside or whatever. I don't know. I guess they were making the attempt to kind of, highlight those moments, but it was failed. Like it didn't achieve those moments.
It also, go ahead.
And to add to what Lael is saying is that the wish was not made for the greater good. Whereas in Spider-Man, when he wanted the spell to be cast, he wanted it to benefit his friends and not himself.
Yeah.
So it's like that level of selflessness also was not
exactly
observed in the film.
Exactly. And that was the best demonstration, because his wish was selfless. You know what I mean? It wasn't for him. It was to benefit everyone else, until he knew the actual consequences. Even Strange told him the consequences, that, look, if you do this, no one will ever remember you. Half of them, or some people, won't even know you exist. You know what I mean? So you have to really understand those consequences. Whereas in this film, they wanted us to think that it was just like that and everything works. You know what I mean? Now we saw a bit of the misfortune of him, Maxwell basically gaining the power in making, so his power worked off of the wishes that other people made, which for him, it was an overload, deteriorating. So then they basically decided at the end of the film, that's when it dawned on him that, okay, if they make this wish, then I want their health. I want their strength. You know what I mean? So you missed that in the beginning. We saw the deterioration, but that should have been made earlier on in the film, but they didn't do so. You know what I mean? So the execution was just completely off, and it seemed like everything was happening in one space.
Right. What about the rest of the world? You know?
Exactly. So that was the downfall of that particular film.
Someone actually said, Bill Barkley says, people just wish that it was a better movie.
Right. Exactly. We wish that it was a much better movie. But in saying that, though, my point is we experienced a bit of a lull in filmmaking, or the execution, or the entertainment value of films. But now we're getting into that point that, like, okay, I love them. Number one, you know, you and I, Rob, we love the Eternals. A lot of people didn't get it, but we loved it. But going forward, we've gotten No Way Home, and that was great. You know what I mean? So we're getting these films. You know, we see Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and Rob, I'm so mad. I am so mad. I watched that episode of you on the John Campea show, and I know you know some shit, but I don't want to know. I don't know, but I know that I just know that whatever you know, you were extremely excited and you were happy. Don't tell me shit, but I'm mad that I don't know, but I'm excited that you're excited, which tells me we're going in the right direction. So I feel good about that shit. But I was so pissed because I was like, I'm looking at your face, and I'm like, this motherfucker knows something. He's smiling. He's happy. He was giddy. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to let it go.
He promised that he's not going to spoil it for us.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to say, but I will. You know, I did show some things before you jumped on, some panels from Avengers Disassembled, the comic, that's all about Wanda Maximoff, her children, and Doctor Strange's relationship to all of it. That they are clearly drawing on for this movie. And the things, I wish, to be honest, we were talking earlier before you were on about spoilers and stuff, and there's just things I would not, I just don't, I don't want spoilers anymore. No. I mean, I like all the speculation and all that, but there's things now, like there were some things that I was just like, when I said happy, I literally covered my face, and I was like I'm like, no, you know, it's because I can't, as a like, I thought that it would never get bigger than Avengers Infinity War and Endgame. I didn't think I could be that giddy as an old school comic book fan, you know, and then the idea that they somehow worked it out to bring Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield back, is that gimmicky? Sure. But as a comic book fan, that's the kind of thing you would have read in the pages of a comic. It would have been a big, this summer, the three Spider-Men come together in Marvel's latest crossover event, you know, Sunday. And it was you know, it was like that. And then having the villains show up, it was so comic booky, but it was so well done. Even doing things like it's just wildly entertaining. Well, what's interesting is, like, the Doctor Strange movie they've been building. Obviously, WandaVision was really the first. I see this as the culmination of the multiverse trilogy, if you want to call it that, because you've got WandaVision, Spider-Man No Way Home, and then Multiverse of Madness. Yeah. And going back and doing some research into Wanda and her kids. I mean, her kids become founding members of the Young Avengers. So there's stuff going on, but before they get there, there's all this craziness that happens that they've clearly been drawing on. Now, I still don't understand the because the multiverse is different from alternate timelines. Because we talked about it last week. Alternate timelines are still it's still 616. It's just different iterations of 616. It's not multiversal. There's the sacred timeline with all of these branches into different, but the multiverse is different, you know, because each multiverse can have branching timelines. So I really do hope. And then we've got Quantum Mania, which I think maybe
Yes.
Quantum Mania is going to go deal with the sacred timeline because you're going through the quantum
Yes.
realm after the multiverse is tied off.
Yes.
But I will say this: at the end of Avengers Disassembled, and I was saying this earlier, but the end of Avengers Disassembled, they find out that it was Wanda who attacked the Avengers in this comic series.
Mhm.
She
Yes.
she caused all these shenanigans, all of these bad things that
Yeah.
she did. So let's just assume instead of attacking the Avengers, the multiverse of madness is basically brought about because of Wanda.
Yeah.
So at the end of Avengers, like we speculated, if they're going to play into House of M and the whole No More Mutants, if we've been watching a universe where Wanda has already erased the mutants, which I believe more than ever that's the case.
Yeah.
That the end of Avengers Disassembled, when they defeat her and the Avengers have her, and her mind is fractured and everything. The end of that comic, Magneto, her father, comes to get her and takes her away to get help.
Exactly.
Bro,
Yeah.
what if
Yeah.
they ended that fucking movie with
Bro.
Magneto? We know we're getting Professor
Yes.
X, but
I
what
want
if
Magneto so
what if
badly.
reality is put back together and the question is like, they touch on the fact that Xavier's going to explain where the mutants, I'm a mutant, where they went is in your
Yeah.
reality. In your reality, Wanda Maximoff made all the mutants go away. And what
Yeah.
if all this shenanigans happen, whatever is going to occur in the movie gets the reality gets put back together and Wanda's there with her blank expression and like, what happened?
Yes.
I don't know what's done. And then
Yeah.
from out of the fucking sky, what if
Comes her father.
What if Magneto lands and
And what if it's Mike
Magneto.
Fassbender?
I mean, who Fassbender, whoever is. Can you imagine
That's
if
who I want.
Magneto
That's what I
came and everyone's looking at Magneto like, who the fuck are you? Like maybe they remember the mutants now because she's brought them all back.
Yeah.
If that movie ended with Magneto, like Avengers Disassembled, with that panel of him coming down and taking her away, let me help her. And you realize the whole thing in Sokovia where she was growing up, like you find out they're not even Sokovian.
It was all something that she created to have that connection. That's my point.
Yeah,
is that her parents, the ones who she thought were her parents, were something that was completely created.
She created all of it. That's why the sitcom, and they've already shown her do it. Like she's already done it. And if you find out, as I suspect, especially after reading Avengers Disassembled, which is what the Wanda storyline with her children and Agatha Harkness, I'll show it again. Here's the panel. Here's the panel I showed earlier. This is from Avengers Disassembled. Wanda goes to Agatha Harkness. Where are my children? Sit down, Wanda. Sit down, and we'll have a chat. Where are my children? And then they explain how Agatha Harkness erased her children and put reality back. She's looking for her kids.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, I'm telling you, if this movie ended with Magneto coming at, backlit by the sun, coming down with his cape, blowing,
floating down,
that would be incredible. That would be incredible.
And it's Mike Fassbender.
I mean, and what's so great about that, we end this movie, and the next movie is Thor: Love and Thunder, which opens in space, with the Guardians of the Galaxy. So we don't even go back to Earth. And then after that, we go back to Wakanda Forever, which who knows when that takes place.
Oh, yeah,
which, by the way, I found out some stuff about that I don't want to know either. Just saying.
Then don't tell us.
I'm not going to say shit. I'm not going to say shit. I found something. I found more because no one's even talking about that. But I was like, this was pretty interesting. Let me just say, I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah. See, here's the thing, and because we touched on this, and by the way, before I jump into this, it's kind of peculiar that tonight is wearing scarlet red. But anyway, we're gonna move on from that portion of it. Like, you're wearing scarlet red, so you know what I mean? Are we in the multiverse right now? We don't know. But no, we talked about
she's casting a spell over us all tonight.
Exactly. We talked about timeline versus, and we talked about this last week on Comic Book Talk with Friends. I think it was last week or the week before last, because last Monday we talked about characters who could potentially, and those characters who are a threat actually to the multiverse. You know, I mentioned a couple of characters. We talked about Psylocke's brother. You know, basically his ability.
Captain Britain.
No, not Captain Britain.
Isn't Captain
Her other brother.
She has
right. Yeah. So she has another brother who actually has the mutant. He has the ability. He's actually a he's actually an Omega level mutant. He can actually pull on the threads of reality itself. So basically, imagine a movie Adjustment Bureau in one person.
Right.
That's who he is.
Right.
You know what I mean? So we talk about him. We talked about Legion. We also talked about America Chavez. We talked about so many different individuals. We talked about Franklin Richards. But when we talk about these individuals, we talk about the power that they possess. Now we have the multiverse versus the timeline itself. We talked about how, and people needed to know the difference between the multiverse and the timeline, because they were talking about what the TVA and how come the TVA is not getting involved. Well, you can have a multiversal threat in the multiverse. We have those realities within that verse. But at the same time, if one thing is changed that's not supposed to, it fractures that timeline within the multiverse, which then they are allowed to get involved. Right. So you think about that, right? And you think about certain things. So what if with Wanda's ability, she can change things in multiple timelines, without them even knowing?
Yes, that's right. That's right.
You know what I mean? Which they wouldn't even know. They wouldn't have any idea that things are actually taking place, because she can change things within their own reality. That's how powerful she is and how much of a threat she is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it was the genius idea for them to bring America Chavez into this film. Like, I'm just blown. My mind is blown.
That's you know, it's funny because after we found a little bit out about Doctor Strange, I'm like, you know what? That's what made me go read Avengers Disassembled again and the House of M, because I've got two Avengers Disassembled hardcovers. I've got the main storyline, and then all the tie-in comics are also a hardcover. And then I have three I don't think there's a House of M omnibus. There might be, but I have three. Before they started doing a lot of omnibuses, they were doing individual hardcovers, like Avengers. Where's an example of one? Before, hang on. So I have, like, Gem Mint Collectibles only has omnibuses, but before they made omnibuses, like I have a ton of these they've done these now as omnibuses, these Avengers omnibuses, but before this is a smaller version, but they're still, beautiful hardcovers. So I've got the Avengers Disassembled versions of these and House of M. I wish they had omnibuses, but these are easier to read. So I went and got my books and read them, and I was blown away how close the Wanda story skewed to WandaVision. I mean, the details are different, but the overall storyline, and we've seen in the trailer that Wanda is the crazy villain of this story. So
well, I can't look. I know we went off on the tangent a little bit, but I mean, when we think about these films that are coming, bro, like, and then it's starting next week with the Batman, like, bro, like I'm so excited. Like, I'm really, really excited. And the thing is, it's like, I know there were a lot of people, even some of my friends, that have been questioning, what is his name? I keep forgetting his name.
Matt Reeves?
Not Matt Reeves.
Robert Pattinson.
Robert Pattinson. They've been questioning his ability to capture the character we all know and love. And I'm like, he's going to do it. We already know he's going to do it.
Well, you think that they would make this movie and not, if they didn't know that you think these smart people at the studio? I mean, if you think about the superheroes, I think that, I think everybody would agree that, like, most of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, they cast it extraordinarily well. Now, I was a fan of Brie Larson as an actor. I will say I thought she was a little flat as Captain Marvel. You know, and forget what you think of her and forget her politics. I'm speaking just in terms of an in-universe version of the movie. I would like to have seen a little bit more comic bookiness in her.
Yeah,
She was she was just a little flat. Like, I would have thought she would be much more like, have a little bit of Thor in her when she's a fighting warrior or something, because it was a little. And I liked the Captain Marvel movie. I did not dislike it. I thought there was a lot of stuff to like in it. By the way, comics are fun. Sticksboy73 says the X gene is revealed in Wanda by the Infinity Stone. No, I think that when Wanda got rid of mutants, she made sure that her mutant powers were no longer seen as mutant powers, but as imbued with her and her brother by the Infinity Stones. I think that there are mutants. Wanda got rid of them, and even for herself, she changed reality, because if she was still a mutant and people knew, they would look into her X gene and be like, it would start the process all over again. So that's why they were miracles. The fact that there are no mutants, because remember, in the Marvel universe, there was mutants all the way back to ancient Egypt and even further back. I mean, you had Kang going back to ancient Egypt to hook up with Apocalypse to take over the, there's.
Exactly.
So,
and we have a few more super chats, Robert.
Yeah, Gage Reynolds says, "Hey guys, so do you think the Secret Wars Disney Plus show is when we're going to get our first look at the X-Men mutants in all their glory?" Oh no. Also, don't forget we're supposed to be getting Storm introduced in Black Panther 2. Well, I haven't.
Finally.
I don't know if that's true. It might be true. I know we're getting. Never mind. Kamei Egan.
good catch, Robert. Very good catch.
Egan said, "I was so disappointed with Wonder Woman 84 because the plot was a jumbled mess and Cheetah was so poorly executed. Especially,
I agree.
she's a great character." I agree. RRTNZ says, "Hail Bob and recommending Mark Millar's Super Crooks, both the graphic novel and the Netflix animated series. Maybe read the novel first. Cheers." And Glenn Mark says, "Rob, you were talking about how you like Don Winslow books on the John Campea show. I'm happy to share that I have a signed copy of The Winter of Frankie Machine. Don Winslow is one of my favorite authors. He writes what they call California noir. The Winter of Frankie Machine is basically about an ex-mafia hitman that moves to the West Coast and runs a bait shop on like the Santa Monica Pier and tries to live the quiet life. And of course, his old life catches up to him. Martin Scorsese was going to direct that movie, from what I understand, with Robert De Niro, and instead of doing that, they made The Irishman instead. So I love The Winter of Frankie Machine. I love Don Winslow. If you guys like that stuff, you would love. Don Winslow's books are so good. He wrote the book Savages that the Oliver Stone movie was based on. Which is a good film.
And Latino Slant is in the chat with us. Hi, Latino Slant.
Hello, Paulie. How's it going? I haven't talked to these guys. I've been so busy with Campea that all the people I usually talk to, like Midnight's Edge, and by the way, Midnight's Edge put out another great video about encapsulating Star Trek 4, all the different iterations of Star Trek 4. I watched that today. That was a good video. But yeah.
That series you're talking about, the last time that I've seen a series like that was Lilyhammer, when that character, I guess had to go to Lilyhammer, Norway. I think it's Norway. And he was supposed to keep a low profile, but it didn't quite work out like that, which I thought was a very good series too.
I thought absolutely. Clint Baker says, "Bruh, if Magneto shows up, I'm going to be standing on my seat in the theater. They're going to throw me out of the theater."
Bro.
If he shows up and it's Fassbender, I'm just gonna scream. I will be so happy.
Here's the thing. I mean, John Campea said something about he has a concept, expectation versus speculation. And that don't allow your speculation to become expectation. So I'm just going by what happened in the Avengers Disassembled comic, which deals with Wanda Maximoff, her disappearing kids, Agatha Harkness. She ends up attacking the Avengers, but instead of attacking the Avengers, she made a town. Now she's got the Darkhold, which brings in things like Chthon and all this other stuff in the multiverse, which wasn't a part of that. But if she is the big bad in the movie and Strange ends up fighting her and these realities have been destroyed because of her or whatever, who knows? Actually, I don't know anything about that. I don't know how the multiverse works and how they're bringing all this in. We know the Illuminati's there. Who are they? But if reality is changed back and the speculation is she had gotten rid of the mutants already, we just had never seen that. And if the mutants come back, the way they tell you they come back is Magneto coming down to Earth and saying, I've come for my daughter, and then taking her away. That would be the greatest ending of a Marvel movie of all time.
Yep.
And we can't be the only people thinking this. Like, it's not us. Like,
No.
This is all, I just came up with this. It's all in the comic. It's all in the comics. So it's like, I mean, I can't, I was reading that when I got to the end of Avengers, because I had forgotten that happened. You know, I'd forgotten Magneto comes down, and it's really poignant in the comic because they're not there. The X-Men aren't there.
You know what'd be even crazier? If Xavier's there to see this and witness this, it tells everybody else, let him be. This is not a war you can win.
Yeah, I mean, because we know. I will.
I'm gonna be, no, that's gonna be crazy. That's gonna be a crazy one.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah. Can you imagine? Can you imagine whether it's Fassbender or, and they could make it Fassbender because in our reality, the funny thing about the Fox X-Men reality is they pushed all those characters back to 63. You know, the First Class. Well, who's to say that the X-Men that we know, why does it have to start in 63?
Yeah,
you know, why can't those X-Men characters be a little age up? There's no reason. Now, I don't know if we would see, like, they would just bring, because after the multiverse, they could go anywhere because the X-Men that we've already seen are already multiverse versions of the X-Men. They're not the MCU versions of the X-Men. They can be anything you want. You could have Michael Fassbender playing Magneto because he was just our version of Magneto too. Yeah. And why not? And then you'd have to change his backstory or whatever they could do. But either way.
I am going to be a bit of a Debbie Downer though. And fans and everybody in the chat, if they may hate me when I say this, but I don't want Hugh Jackman back.
I don't either. Unless he's part of the Illuminati from some other universe where he's been seen. I'm with you.
I don't.
Well, who would you like to play? I'm sorry, Lael. Who would you like to play that role, Lael?
It's really hard for me right now to really say who I would want to play it, but I just hope that they get someone who's capable of giving us a good rendition and also who's short. Like literally somebody who's closely related to the character. And I know they probably won't, you know, and who knows if they bring Jackman back, so be it. I just don't want it myself because I think that he's done such a good job. And his run with Logan and the book was closed when we got him in Logan. He did such an amazing job. I just want that to be it. And now I want another rendition. I want someone, he can be who he was in that multiverse and that you know what I mean? But I just want a different rendition. I want some fresh faces now. Like I really, really do. But I mean, they can bring back, but here's the thing. We're talking about Patrick Stewart. And I can't imagine anyone else playing Xavier but him because he's done such now, not to take away from what is his name? McAvoy. John, not to take it back, not to take anything away from his depiction, you know, of the character, but we're talking about Patrick Stewart. You know what I mean? Someone who was, you know, and I see that, and I couldn't picture anybody else. And the thing is, what's good about Patrick Stewart is you can de-age him, you can do so much, and it would still look well.
Yeah, but I mean, we know we're getting him, but if he's a different, because the Fox X-Men are not our X-Men, so they are from like Spider-Man, like Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire. Yeah. They're from different adjacent universes. Yeah. However, that's not to say that Xavier and you can still we know that Patrick Stewart's in the movie. Mm-hmm. You know, we've heard his voice, we've seen the back of his head, we know he's, and let me just say, I can tell you that he is playing Charles Xavier in the movie.
Yeah.
You know that.
I can tell you.
Could Tom Cruise have ever played Wolverine?
He's like, I can tell you that. I can, yeah. I mean, hell, I mean, it's there. Like people we know.
I don't think it's a real surprise to anyone to know. But there's people like, well, what if he's really not? It's no. It's Patrick Stewart playing Xavier.
It's Patrick Stewart playing Xavier. We got that.
Yeah, and he might be in a floating wheelchair, maybe.
Could Tom Cruise have ever played Wolverine?
No.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, it's interesting because I wonder now if the world would accept a 5 foot tall Wolverine. I wonder about that because there's a reason why Cyclops, Colossus could pick Wolverine up and throw him in a fastball special.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if it's hard to say.
It's gonna that's a tough one to really like. You know what I mean? Kind of like Tom Cruise, and that's not to take away from who he is. And there's already with that speculation that he might actually be a version of Tony Stark in his film, so we don't know. But yeah, him as Wolverine. Yeah, I don't know. That's tough.
I mean, look, Tom Cruise was going to play Iron Man in the 90s. They were developing and. Yeah. So do I believe that Tom Cruise? I've heard nothing that Tom Cruise was at all going to be superior Iron Man or whatever. But it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, I think that would be a natural thing to do because it has a bit of history in trying to get that movie off the ground, and I think he would do it. Tom Cruise is up for that kind of stuff. He knows what's fun.
Yeah, he does.
And I would love to get a die-cast hot toy. I mean, I don't know.
People are saying that possibly Daniel Radcliffe could play Wolverine. Yes or no?
Somebody made a picture. I don't think it was Boss Logic, but I put it on my Instagram feed of Daniel Radcliffe as Wolverine. I think he's too slight. I mean, I always kind of saw Wolverine as more of a spark plug of a guy. Like even though he's short, he's big. He's meaty. He's solid. Whereas
like a bodybuilder almost.
Yeah, in a way. Like I don't know, but maybe they can't go that way because we're so used to the tall, strapping 6'2" or 3" Hugh Jackman. I mean, I think they could go either way.
I wanted before we actually got him, before he was actually casted as Venom. I actually wanted Tom Hardy. I thought that Tom Hardy would have actually done a great job as Wolverine. I mean, because he can pull it off. He's not too tall at all. But I thought that he could actually pull off the character. He would have done it, because he has range. I mean, as an actor. So I was like, well, maybe somebody like him because he has that ruggedness. We know he can get big and brawly because he's done it. Of course, him being Bane, of course. So.
So it's two. He's already played two. Not as many as Chris. I mean, Chris Evans was in. He was in the Losers. But he's done one. He was in Losers. That's a DC adaptation. Fantastic Four is Marvel. And he was in something else. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say. I think. We'll see. I mean, I think that the Multiverse of Madness is going to give us a lot of cameos for people that were just want to have some fun. It's going to be really interesting to see what they do. I just hope that it isn't just cameo after cameo after cameo because the Illuminati makes sense. Like, if that Illuminati is people from universes that were destroyed or multiverses that were, and these are like the sole survivors of their universe. Because I'm telling you, man, we're going to get the info dump. When Charles Xavier says, I am a mutant, what's a mutant? Well, you used to have mutants on your planet until the big bad of this movie, Wanda Maximoff, took them all away. Right. Because of the grief that she suffered. And then, can you see it? Doctor Strange is like, well, she's from Sokovia. And Patrick Stewart's like,
what's that?
Sokovia. The country of Sokovia. The Sokovia Accords and all that.
Yeah.
What country, Sokovia?
Exactly.
I mean,
Exactly.
I think they would even go that far, that reality is war. I mean, just because how cool that would be.
Can you imagine if something like this happens, if everything is completely changed and the heroes that we know now have forgotten the people who are in their lives that were mutants and friends that they were close to that were mutants that they accepted. And in the reality breaks, everything just, is shifted back and they're like, wait a minute, I knew this guy. Like
Right. Right. They would
movie
know.
is-
I mean, you could go even further. Imagine at the end of this movie. Imagine at the end of this movie if Stephen Strange turns around. Stephen, it's me. It's Reed.
Yeah, right. Right.
And they both have the gray hair.
Yeah, right.
I mean, it could be the most mind-blowing shit ever.
Yeah, right.
And because who wants to watch another X-Men Origins movie do we have to watch the Fantastic Four become the Fantastic Four yet again?
Yeah.
I mean, it's Reed, dude.
We don't need an origin film because it's already been told.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, I mean, it would, and I know a lot of people. I mean, look, I as an old school comic book fan love this idea. Because then everyone's just there and let's move forward. The idea that we have to watch the Fantastic Four blast off into space and get affected by gamma radiation or whatever yet again, and we're going to spend half the movie seeing Ben Grimm go, I don't like to be the Thing, blah blah. I'm over that, man. I'm over the origin stories. Over.
And that was the beauty of when we got Homecoming, Far From Home, No Way Home, is because it didn't tell that origin story. It just started him in high school, him being a kid. We already knew that he actually got the powers. We already knew that Uncle Ben had passed away. We didn't need to go back that far to really discover that origin. We just kick it off where it is, and it was a genius idea. So how we got him, I agree. We no more origin stories. We don't need that to be told.
Nope. No.
Lael, what are some things you're looking forward to in the Batman film next week?
I'm looking for a masterful I want to see everything that we saw from the Detective Comics. That's what I want to see. I want the detective version of Batman. I want that story to be told because that is those stories that we actually got in Detective Comics were the most unique stories that were ever told. And it showed really the genius of Bruce Wayne. I want that version. That's what I want. I want his, and also I want the turmoil between Bruce Wayne and Batman of knowing that this is an identity that he helms, that he holds, but at the same time, how angry and torn he is at the injustices that have actually happened in Gotham, things that have been allowed. He's already dealing with, and like you said, origin story. I don't want them to go back and constantly retell the story of how he lost, Martha and Thomas. We don't really need to know that anymore. We know what happened. I want to see the after effects in Bruce, but I also want to see his relationship with Selena Kyle, of course. I can't wait to see how Zoe pulls this off. I can't see the masterclass of performance that we're actually going to get. With I keep forgetting his name. He plays
Pattinson.
Plays the Riddler.
I can't remember
his name.
either.
I keep forgetting because he's an excellent actor. He's brilliant.
Yes.
Because the whole vibe of this movie
The
so
Riddler's
far,
Paul Dano.
and
He looks creepy. I mean, his performance. It looks everything. Jeffrey Wright is Commissioner Gordon. I mean, they cast this movie extraordinarily well. I can't wait.
Yes, it's going to be amazing. And that's the thing is that's what I'm looking for. I want a masterful performance. I want an excellent movie so far. What everybody's saying, as far as the critics are concerned and what they've seen, they love it. So I'm expecting a really, really good film. I mean, look, cinematically, it looks gorgeous so far. It really, really does.
Well, it's like we were talking about how it's set in the real world, which is amazing.
Yeah, and it reminds me of Seven. It really reminds me of
Seven and Zodiac, the whole Fincher-esque vibe. You know,
it gives me that vibe.
You know, Lael.
And
go ahead.
You know what I'm most ready for, bro? When this movie drops and we walk out of the theater on Thursday night, and I turn on my computer or I look at my phone and I go on a Hot Toys page and I find out that they've actually released the Batman figure.
You think that'll happen?
Yes.
You really think they're going to have a Batman ready to go on Friday?
Yes.
Wow. You heard it here, people.
Not released, but
and
revealed.
Robert, we have a few more super chats.
Revealed. Not released, but revealed.
Yeah,
they're going to reveal.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Yes,
okay. Yes. So
announced.
They're going to announce it. They're going to reveal it. I think that's going to happen Friday. Not the travesty that we got with Peacemaker. That's a different story. That's a different conversation.
Yeah.
But what
they don't have they don't have the rights to his face. They don't have the rights to his because of the WWE.
Yeah,
which is too bad. And the jointed arm looks terrible.
Terrible.
But Clint Baker says, "Bruh, if Magneto shows up, I'm going to be standing on my seat in the theater." Now, I just want to say, everyone, I don't actually think Magneto's going to show up and take Wanda away. I'm just saying that was the end of Avengers Disassembled, and if you were making a movie, it'd be the coolest thing ever if that happened.
Exactly.
But it is there. If you read Avengers Disassembled, it'll all become clear to you. You'll be like, oh, okay. MCP Scotty. Hello, Scotty. I finished What If and loved it. Captain Carter and Supreme Strange are great.
Yes.
It's remarkable how consistently unlikable they write Carol Danvers. You know, and ever since, even in Civil War II, Carol Danvers, who I loved Carol Danvers. Avengers Annual 10, the first appearance of Rogue when she takes Carol Danvers' powers, is one of my favorite comics of all time.
Yeah.
Written by Chris Claremont, drawn by Michael Golden. I love that comic so much.
Yes.
You got to check it out. Gage Reynolds says, bring in a twist and have X-23 and have Kristen Stewart play the part. Also, what about Lady Gaga as Emma Frost or maybe Songbird?
Yes.
I can't wait for them to bring in Songbird eventually. Yeah, I mean, look, all of the X-Men and all the mutant, it's a ginormous cast. Ginormous. And look, I just think that this is an opportunity. Do I really think they're going to have the end of this? I don't know. I don't know if Wanda, it's all speculation right now. It's all speculation. It isn't even my expectation because it's so outlandish. It's so crazy. But the problem is, as they've gotten further and further and created more and more and more and more and more MCU continuity, the question begs to be asked, where are the mutants?
Yeah.
The mutants in the Marvel cinema and the Marvel universe have existed for thousands of years. So to not have mutants in this world, which they couldn't because the Fox thing. So how do you kickstart mutants in the MCU? Well, and I've always said, and we talked about this on the John Campy show, I've always said, well, they've just always been here. We just haven't known them. And even that, the idea that it was Wanda Maximoff who changed reality, all of this has been well established in Marvel Comics lore. And they're always looking to the lore. And they're always going back, and they're not making it exact, but they're always touching upon it. And I think the way they do it, with Wanda, and we're gonna see Xavier, they're already going outlandish by putting Xavier in the movie. That's already fucking crazy. And who knows who else is going to be in the movie? I mean, it's already it's called Multiverse of Madness. And if they're really going to deliver the madness part, why not have Wanda Maximoff be the Wanda? She's already crazy. She already created this whole town and put it under a spell. And she's making sitcoms? That's pretty crazy. Yeah. Now, she's already creating sitcom realities. And when you find out when Doctor Strange shows up, I mean, again, if I want to, I'll show you.
It indicates that she can create an entire world that's believable.
Yeah, and this panel, one more time, for those of you who might have come in late, let me just show you this panel when Tony Stark is listening to our boy, Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange says, and I'll read it one more time, there's a great possibility, Iron Man, that she may not even be aware of what she's doing. Doctor, I'm sorry, I have an immense amount of respect for you, but we cannot accuse a teammate of this kind of terrorism. I need more than your theory. And Doctor Strange says, my theory? Listen to me. This chaos magic, this source of her new reality-altering powers. I am the master of mystic arts, and I am telling you, there's no such thing as chaos magic. And then it goes on, back to this image of Wanda, and this will be the last time I bring this up again, and I know I've already read it once before, but this is Doctor Strange saying, please forget we're talking about your friend and listen to me tell you the story of an orphan mutant with a sordid, violent past, with powers she did not earn nor she can control, powers she never fully understood. Can you understand the delicate mindset of a woman, a person who has a control over reality? It means reality controls her. Imagination becomes the enemy. Structure disappears. Reality eventually, as she knows it, starts to slip away and elude her. Drama, conflict, tragedy, they become excuses to change the world to fit the image that she has for it. Anything she doesn't like, she can change, no matter how slight. People, places, things. Everything is hers to change. But every time she does that, every time she gives in to her desires, no matter how noble they may be, a little more of her slips away. She loses herself, her reason, but she struggles every day to keep it all in check, to keep it all together. And for a person of strong mind and body, for a person of pure spirit, the task of coping with these powers would be all-consuming. That's exactly what we have been seeing. It's all right there, and I'm so there for it. And if she brings back, if Magneto comes and gets her and takes her away, I mean, I think in the movie it'll be Doctor Strange. I'll take care of her, and he'll take her away. That's probably what's going to happen. But
Yeah.
by the way, Action Figure World sends in a super chat and says Mezco teased their 1/12 scale of the Batman figure. Just saying, for the Scale Wars. And Action Figure World's already sent some great pictures. Rakamman85 says, downside of the way they did Spider-Man, they didn't spend enough time developing his family dynamic and what makes him just like everyone else. Aunt May's death should have hit even harder.
I agree.
I don't disagree with that.
It may still hit harder in the next movies to come.
Yeah.
We may see the after effects of that, because this last movie was just the shock of it all.
Yeah.
And now he has to go on with his life. How is he going to go on now without her in his life?
By himself.
Yeah.
Literally.
Whippa Snappa says, spelled just like I said it, Whippa Snappa, says, interesting fact about Matt Reeves. Jeff Loeb, who wrote Batman The Long Halloween in 96, was Matt Reeves' screenwriting teacher in college. That is absolutely true, by the way. Pretty cool.
Wow.
Yep. Brandon Young says, I feel like I've listened to you guys so long. I feel like you guys in the 6 scale community are like a second family. I love that. Also, Figure Flex Friday was dope, Lael. I have to watch Figure Flex Friday. I haven't watched it yet.
Yes. It was a hit, bro. I'm telling you, Rob, you have to come on. You have to come on.
Okay.
Yeah, man. I got.
I'll be there.
It is so fun because we it's interactive, so we get the community involved. They send us, they put Figure Flex Friday, they tag us, and then what happened is I'll go on and I'll just bring their photos on through Instagram or Facebook or however, and it's fun. It's so fun. I'm
there.
Yeah. Yes.
Hassoni Parker, who I love, saw him today. Love talking movies with you before. Good times. Hassoni's got some pretty good taste in films. We talked a little Paul Verhoeven's first English language movie, Flesh and Blood. Pretty cool. Yes. So listen, kids, I have to end this stream. I got to go walk the dogs and do another stream after this. So I want to thank you. Midnight Musings, which starts at 9 p.m. East Coast time at midnight. We'll see you guys next week. Yes?
Yes.
Certainly.
Yes.
So we'll be back. And
no plans. I'm good. I'm straight.
Okay,
I just want everybody to subscribe and like the channel. And of course, you guys can always follow the channel again on Facebook and our other social media apps as well.
Well, tell me about your YouTube channel. Where can people subscribe to you?
People can subscribe to me on my YouTube channel, Positive Fandom. I'm also streaming on Twitch, one word, Positive Fandom, and where you can find movie reviews and so much more. On Monday nights, you can find me streaming with Lorena Creole on Toxic Femininity at 8 p.m. Eastern. On Wednesdays and Thursdays, sometimes you can find me on the 1/6 Scale Man Network with Lael, either on Say What or with Uncivilized Scoundrels. On Fridays in the afternoon at 12 p.m. Eastern, you can find me streaming with Andre and Tom and Cameron Pasha on Midnight's Edge in the morning. On Friday nights, you can usually find me here in the Burnettwork with Robert and Lael. And on Sunday mornings, guys, my new show called Sunday Brunch airs at 10:30 a.m. It's a live show, Eastern Standard Time, where we do all the parlay and the fandom. We talk about what's going on, and I hope to see you all there.
Yes, yes.
Lael, the smooth one. You'd say I'm smooth, but you're smoother. 1/6 scale man. Where do people find you online?
They can find me at the 1/6 Scale Man YouTube channel. Tomorrow, we are actually going to have Take Your Position, and guess who is going to be moderating for the show?
Is Justin going to moderate?
Justin's going to moderate the show. So Justin's going to be there live moderating, so that's going to be fun. Tomorrow's theme is movie scenes. So we're going to be taking figures and recreating movie scenes, reenacting, or actually reimagining movie scenes. You know, we might actually just kind of do our own interpretations. However, but yes, that's going to be on Take Your Position tomorrow. Mondays will be comic book talk with friends, of course. One of my favorite segments where we kind of deep dive into comics. Then we have on Wednesday, Say What, of course, where we talk about everything in the 1/6 scale realm, or statue collecting, pop culture, whatever you want to call it. We deep dive. Civilized Scoundrels on Thursdays, and then on Fridays, it's my new love, and I love this show so much because it is so fun. Figure Flex Friday. It's at 7:00. We get everybody involved, all the fans, everybody's actually in the chat, in the collecting community. You tag us, Figure Flex Friday, and then you put the you hashtag Figure Flex Friday, and then you tag us in it, and we'll pull up your photo. We'll look at your collection. We get to see you flex. You get to see us flex. We have a nice little conversation. It's so much fun. I love the show. You can find me there. I'll also be releasing some side videos. I'm introducing a new segment called Monday Mashup, where I'll be actually mashing up different figures and just putting out a video. So stay tuned for that. You can also find me here on Midnight
Musings.
Midnight Musings.
Exactly. Midnight Musings. You can find me here. So yes, we are busy people, but we like giving y'all what you love, what you like, and we like doing it ourselves. So man, thank you for coming. If you haven't already subscribed to this channel, I know everybody out there's already subscribed to this channel. So I really don't have to say too much, because we got 200 something people out there that's been watching all night. And come on, you know what time it is.
It's
subscribe, like here. Yeah, let's go.
I want to thank everybody for being here, for subscribing to the channel, sure, but thank you for supporting the channel via Super Chats and tips. We had a great member call, so people that are members of the channel, every other week we do a member call. I love seeing everyone's faces, which we did today. It was fun. You can go back and watch the member call. We're now putting them out on the channel, so if you want to see what a member call is like, you can join. You don't have to be bashful, but you don't have to show your face if you don't want to, but you can still have fun. Tomorrow, I'm, of course, doing Let's Get Physical Media with Dieter Bastian. I finally have some discs to show, and so does he, and I'm very excited. So that's at 11 a.m. Pacific time. So come check it out. And on that note, RRTNZ says, zero interest in God Wanda rewriting the whole world's reality. As bad as the TVA makes everything meaningless, in my opinion. Byrne did the best Evil Wanda in 89. Well, RRTNZ, I'm just saying that all of this is right out of the comics, and I thought it was cool in the comics, but I understand where you're coming from. I get where you're coming from, but I think that, I mean, do we want to go back and watch an X-Men Origins movie again? You know, I don't know. But I want to thank you all for supporting the channel generously via tips and super chats. I want to thank Tom Jr. Jackson for moderating.
Yes.
And
we are all goof people, Tom. We are
crazy enough. In an hour, Dave Parker and I are doing a midnight metal about the whole history of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise, culminating with Netflix's less good Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. So join us in a half an hour for our once a month now. We're doing a once a month midnight metal, Dave Parker and I. So come be a part of that in an hour.
Yes.
And on that note, I would say to all of you, remember, every person you meet has a story to tell that you have yet to hear, and all you have to do is listen. And with that, I would say to all of you, have a better night.